The wind comes first, a low sighing breath that slides across the endless sands like the whisper of an old god. The night over the Gobi Desert is not silent, as travelers often imagine. It murmurs, hums, and shivers with the voices of dunes, shifting under the cold light of the stars. Overhead, the sky stretches like a vast sheet of ink, its constellations glimmering like shards of ancient glass. Beneath it, a thin procession of lights moves slowly, lanterns swinging from tall poles fixed to camel saddles, glowing with the faint amber of burning oil. The caravan, 40 men and women, 20 beasts, and twice as many dreams, is bound for Dunhuang, the last jeweled outpost before the desert yields to the wild expanse of China's western frontier. Leading the train is Rafiq Ibn Taymiyyah, a merchant from Saf. His robe is woven of indigo-dyed silk, faded from months of travel. The scent of his trade clings to him, saffron, cardamom, and the faint mineral tang of lapis lazuli, packed in cotton and sealed in goatskin. His eyes, dark as night itself, study the horizon where the moonlight meets the sand. To his right rides Lian, the scholar-translator from Dunhuang, her silk scarf fluttering like a banner of gold in the desert wind. She is young, perhaps 20, her face half hidden behind the scarf's folds, but her eyes shine with the patient intelligence of someone who reads the desert as easily as words on a scroll. They travel by night because the day is merciless. The Gobi sun can boil water in a flask and blind a man in hours. But at night, when the dunes glow silver and the air cools to a biting chill, the Silk Road wakes. The road is not truly a road, only a memory of footsteps, a map of stars, and the wisdom of those who survived before. Each traveler carries a lantern not just to see, but to be seen. In the darkness, light is a language. One misplaced spark could mean life or death. The caravan halts near the Mingsha dunes, known in every tongue as the Singing Sands. The camels kneel, groaning softly, while the traders move with quiet efficiency. Tents rise like paper blossoms in the wind. The fire is lit, its flames sending up a coil of fragrant smoke as someone throws dried juniper onto the embers. As the sparks dance skyward, a faint, eerie hum fills the air. The dunes themselves are singing. Some say it's the desert's way of keeping the living company. Others whisper that it's the echo of buried armies beneath the sand. Rafiq listens, his hand resting on the hilt of his short blade. Though not out of fear, out of reverence, Lian kneels by the fire, laying out a small bundle of scrolls, each one marked with red seals, sutra fragments. She explains to an older woman beside her, Uzma, a healer from Bactria, copied for the temple in Dunhuang. The monks pay silver for complete verses. Uzma smiles without lifting her gaze from the herbs she crushes in a bronze mortar. And what do they pay for incomplete ones? Lian shrugs lightly. Dreams, perhaps. The conversation drifts away with the wind. Around them, the night breathes. From a distance, the desert looks empty, but listen closely, and it's full of life. The rustle of fabric, the slow chew of camels, the clinking of pots. Above it all, the stars pulse brighter, reflected in the glass of their lanterns until it seems the heavens have doubled, one sky above and one below, trembling in the firelight dot. Then a sound, faint, far off, the soft rhythm of hooves cutting through sand. Rafiq lifts his head. The guards stir. Out beyond the nearest dune, a figure appears, a lone rider, small against the night, his silhouette wavering like a ghost's. The caravans, even the camels, grow uneasy. When the rider finally reaches them, his horse is staggering, foam at its mouth. The man slides off the saddle and collapses to one knee. His cloak is torn, the hem scorched, A single object dangles from a leather cord around his neck, a carved jade pendant shaped like an eye. Master Wei, the caravan leader, steps forward, torchlight painting the lines of age on his face. Who rides so late? He asks in Chinese. The stranger doesn't answer at first. He looks up slowly, eyes gleaming like wet stone. My name is Parviz, he says hoarsely, his accent thick with Persian syllables. I came from Yamen Gate. My caravan was taken. The words fall heavy. Everyone knows the meaning of taken. Bandits, deserters, or worse, the soldiers who patrol the trade roads in the name of forgotten governors. Lian exchanges a glance with Rafik, her brow furrowing. There were rumors of fire near the gate, she murmurs, and of soldiers hunting for someone. Parvis's gaze drifts toward the dunes, his voice barely more than a breath. They were not soldiers. Silence grips the camp. The fire pops. The dunes hum softly in response. Rafik gestures toward the circle. Sit, traveler. Warm yourself. Whatever hunts in the dark can wait until dawn. Parvis hesitates, then lowers himself beside the flames. His hands shake as he unwraps a strip of cloth around his arm, the skin beneath marked with shallow burns. Uzma leans forward, wordless, and begins to grind more herbs as the night deepens. The unease in the camp begins to fade, replaced by the quiet rhythm of shared survival. Rafik takes out his rabab, its strings catching the firelight, and begins to play. The melody is slow and low, like the turning of the earth. A song from Samarkand, he says, half to himself, to keep away bad spirits. The others gather close, even Parvis. Lian listens, eyes half closed, lips moving silently to the tune's forgotten words. The desert wind shifts, carrying the music outward. It travels over the sands, across buried bones, and toward the distant mountains, carrying with it the first thread of a story that will stretch from Dunhuang to Damascus, from the edges of empire to the heart of legend. As the fire dwindles, Rafik stops playing. For a moment, only the whisper of sand remains. Then, far away, something glints, a reflection of moonlight on metal, half buried at the base of a dune. A bronze mirror, its surface etched with the faint outline of a goddess's face. The wind brushes against it, and for an instant, it seems as though the face smiles. The night grows colder. The caravan sleeps. Only the desert watches patient, ancient, remembering. The first light of dawn spreads like liquid gold across the dunes, catching every ridge, every curve, and turning the desert into a sea of molten sand. The air is crisp, dry, and carries the faint aroma of smoke, a hint of last night's campfire, mingled with something more ominous from the east. The caravan stirs. Camels shift on their knees, stretching stiff legs, and traders begin the ritual of preparing for the day. Tents folded, packs secured, water skins checked. But beneath the routine, attention coils around the travelers. Parvis has not slept. His eyes scan the horizon, watching for shapes in the distance. Every shadow a possible threat. Rafik approaches him quietly, stepping over the frost-crusted sand. Tell us what happened at Yamen Gate, he says softly. Parvis hesitates, fingers tightening around the jade pendant at his neck. The memory is still fresh, still burning inside him like a second wound. We were ambushed at dusk, he begins, voice low and roughened by smoke and fear. Not by soldiers, not by ordinary bandits. Something larger. They came from the cliffs, flames and screams. My caravan, my family was gone in minutes. Only I escaped. His words hang in the air, heavy as stone. The other traders exchange uneasy glances, the desert around them suddenly feeling infinitely wider. Infinitely Lonelier. Master Wei, who has been silent until now, squints toward the east, hand shading his eyes. Yamen Gate is not a place for the faint of heart. There are rumors of desert clans, mercenaries, and old curses, but fire in the twilight. His voice tightens. That is something different. Lian kneels beside Parvis, examining his burned arm. These marks are strange, she murmurs. They are not from ordinary flames. Look at the edges. They curl unnaturally, like the fire obeyed him rather than consuming him. Parvis nods, unable to speak, staring at the horizon where the smoke still lingers faintly. The caravan resumes its march, leaving behind only a faint trail in the sand. Every step eastward is cautious. Rafik rides beside Parvis, glancing at the jade pendant again. The small dragon-eye carving glints in the morning sun. Where did you get this? He asks. Parvis swallows and lifts the pendant, letting it catch the light. It belonged to my father, he said. It would protect whoever carries it on the road, even from death itself. The statement is met with silence. In a land ruled by both superstition and survival, objects like this are more than talismans. They are legends incarnate. Hours pass. The sun climbs, relentless, turning the desert into a glare of white sand. The caravan moves slowly through the dunes, and each traveler feels the weight of silence settling over them. Around midday, the dunes flatten into a barren plain. The ground is cracked and dry, littered with blackened stones that glimmer faintly, remnants of some ancient fire. Or perhaps the echoes of Parvis's tale. Rafik's mind races. There is a rhythm to the desert, and he knows that fire this sudden, this destructive, rarely strikes without purpose. By afternoon, the caravan reaches a small wadi, a dry riverbed lined with the skeletons of desert bushes. Here, they pause. Camels kneel, exhaling clouds of dust. Master Wei signals the others to set up temporary shade. Lian walks to the edge of the wadi, studying the horizon. Her scholar's eye catches something, a faint plume of smoke rising from a distant cliff, curling unnaturally against the blue sky. That's where he came from, she whispers. Rafik follows her gaze. The shape of the smoke is wrong, thick, black at the base, fading to a strange, iridescent shimmer at the tip, almost alive in its movement as the sun lowers. Parvis finally speaks again, recounting details of the ambush. They were fast, almost invisible in the twilight, he says. Flames struck like serpents, winding across the ground and climbing rocks. And the men, they screamed in a voice I have never heard before. Not human, not animal. It was the sound of fear itself. The travelers listen, spellbound. Even the hardened guards tighten their grips on their blades. The desert seems to listen too, the wind pausing as though holding its breath. That night, the caravan camps again, but no fires are lit. Lanterns hang dimly, casting long shadows across the dunes. Rafik sits with Parvis, examining the pendant in more detail. Your father's talisman, he says, may have saved you, but it also marks you. Something in the desert recognizes it, I think, and it will not let you pass unnoticed. Lian sits nearby, writing hurriedly in her scrolls. If we survive, this story will not be just about silk and spices, she murmurs. It will be about what waits beyond the road, in the places no map dares to name. The night deepens, the wind carries the faint hum of distant sands, and for the first time, the travelers hear it in a way that chills them. A subtle, rhythmic resonance, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Parvis clutches his pendant. The caravan sleeps lightly, eyes flicking toward the eastern horizon, toward the cliffs where smoke rises in a motion that seems alive. Somewhere in the desert, fire waits, patient and unyielding, and the story of the night is far from over. Night falls like a velvet cloak, suffocating yet strangely comforting, draping the desert in deep indigo. The caravan huddles together, their lanterns dim, casting flickering shadows that dance across the dunes. The Minksha dunes, once golden in the sun, now appear as colossal waves, frozen in darkness, silent witnesses to the traveler's every movement. The air is still, but the desert is never truly silent. From the far distance, a low hum vibrates through the sand, almost imperceptible at first, then stronger, resonating like a heartbeat beneath the earth itself. The travelers sense it before they hear it consciously, a subtle vibration that sets their teeth on edge and makes their limbs tense. Parviz sits apart from the group, eyes fixed on the eastern horizon where the smoke from Yaman Gate lingers like a fading scar. He clutches the jade pendant, feeling a faint warmth pulsing from it, as though the artifact itself is alive. Liane notices his discomfort and approaches quietly, kneeling beside him. "You feel it, don't you?" she asks softly. Parviz nods. "It's calling, or warning," he whispers. "I don't know which." Rafik, standing a few paces away, studies the dunes, his merchant's mind calculating every risk. Bandits, desert clans, soldiers, the usual dangers of the Silk Road. Yet something about the night feels wrong, too deliberate, too watchful. As the fire flickers low, a chilling sound rises from the dunes. It is not wind, not animal, not human, but something in between. A whisper, barely audible at first, then clearer, fragmented syllables carried by the breeze, like voices half-formed, echoing from deep within the sand. The guards stiffen, gripping their blades. Uzma mutters prayers under her breath, grinding dried herbs in her palms to ward off evil spirits. The children in the caravan huddle together, eyes wide, listening to the night's unnerving choir. One by one, the whispers begin to take shape, forming faint words, half-syllables of forgotten languages. "Traveler, traveler, beware." The voice seems to circle the camp, never coming from one spot, but all around, rising from the dunes themselves. Rafik steps forward, hand raised. "It's just wind," he says firmly, though his own voice shakes slightly. But even as he speaks, the whispering grows stronger, shifting in tone, repeating in an unnatural cadence, as if the desert is testing them. Suddenly, a movement flickers at the edge of the camp. Shapes, dark and fluid, slip over the ridges of the dunes, barely visible in the lantern light. Camels bray nervously, snorting at the shadows. Parviz rises instinctively, pendant clutched tightly, eyes scanning for threat. "They know we are here," he says. Liane grips his arm. "Who?" she asks. Parviz swallows hard. "The ones who burned my caravan, or something like them." The air seems to thrum with menace. The night itself feels alive, listening. Rafik calls for a council of the caravan leaders. Around the dim fire, whispers of fear mix with strategy. They decide to leave the safety of the hollow at first light, moving toward a narrower valley where the terrain offers more control over the camels and an easier defense against ambushes. Yet no one speaks openly of the voices or the shadows. Acknowledging them might make them more real. Instead, they pack silently, every movement careful, measured, heavy with anticipation. Hours stretch. The night deepens. Liane sits near the dying embers, her quills scratching furiously on a scroll. She records every sound, every flicker, every unnatural sensation. If this desert has memory, she whispers to herself, it will remember tonight. Uzma prepares a small concoction, burning herbs in a circle around the camp as a protective ward. Even the guards glanced nervously toward the eastern dunes, uneasy under the desert's scrutiny. Then, Just before the first pale light of dawn touches the horizon, the whispers crescendo, a single, sharp word, spoken in a voice both old and young, human and impossible. Run. The caravan freezes. The wind dies for a moment, and in the silence that follows, the desert exhales as if satisfied. Slowly, the hum fades, leaving only the soft crunch of sand beneath camel hooves and the low murmurs of the caravan. As morning arrives, the travelers rise, shaken but resolved. The desert has spoken, and its message is clear. The road ahead will not be easy. Parviz tightens his grip on the jade pendant. Rafik mounts his camel, scanning the horizon, wary but determined. Liane rolls her scrolls carefully, recording the first whisper of what will become a long and dangerous journey. Uzma gathers her herbs, still murmuring protective incantations, and so, as the caravan resumes its march, the dunes stretch endlessly before them, alive with unseen watchers, echoing voices, and hidden dangers. The Silk Road, under the night's veil, has revealed its first secret, a warning of the fires to come, of shadows that hunt in the sand, and of stories that will only be remembered by those who survive. The sun rises mercilessly over the western desert, painting the sand in brilliant shades of gold and copper. The caravan moves slowly, each step sinking into the loose, hot grains. Camels grunt under their loads, hooves scraping stones hidden beneath the dunes, sweat beads on foreheads, soaking through the robes and scarves of traders who have grown accustomed to the road. Yet the air itself seems to weigh on them, heavy and unyielding. The events of the previous night linger in their minds, the whispers, the shadows, the warning to run. Every ripple of sand feels watched. Every distant heat shimmer might conceal danger. Parviz rides beside Rafik, still clutching his jade pendant, its warmth pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "I've never seen fire move like that," he says quietly, voice tinged with fear. "And the voices, I hear them still, sometimes in my dreams." Rafik nods slowly, scanning the horizon for any sign of threat. "The desert has its own rules," he says. "Sometimes it tests you, sometimes it hunts, and sometimes it simply watches, waiting for the weak." Liane rides just behind them, her scrolls secured under her arm. She writes feverishly, her ink smudged from sweat. "These are not ordinary travelers' tales," she whispers. "Something in the dunes remembers." Hours pass under the blistering sun. Heat shimmers off the sand, creating mirages that dance ahead of the caravan. Shapes of distant mountains twist and waver, sometimes appearing closer than they are, sometimes receding into nothing. Then, in the distance, a glimmer of blue-green catches their eyes, the impossible promise of water. An oasis. Palms sway gently despite the lack of wind, and the caravan's pace quickens as hope and exhaustion clash within them. As they approach, the oasis grows more surreal. The water is crystal clear, reflecting the sky like a polished mirror. Birds circle lazily above, though none have been seen flying for days. On the shore, shadows move but precisely too deliberate for ordinary wildlife. Figures step from behind the palms, men cloaked in flowing black, faces hidden beneath hoods. The caravan halts. Every hand tightens on a blade or staff. Master Wei signals silence. "They are waiting," he says simply. One of the hooded figures steps forward, raising a hand. "Travelers from the east." The voice is smooth, deep, almost hypnotic. "You seek water, rest, and passage, but all gifts in the desert have a price." Rafik steps forward cautiously. "We pay in silver, spices, and loyalty," he replies. The figure tilts its head slightly, as if amused. "You will pay. Yes, he murmurs, but not as you expect. The desert takes more than you bring, and it remembers everything. Parviz feels a chill despite the heat. The pendant around his neck grows warmer, pressing against his chest. He glances at the others. Lian looks uneasy, her scholar's mind racing for logic, but even she cannot ignore the strange aura of the oasis. The water's surface ripples without wind, shadows flicker where no sunbeam reaches, and the air smells faintly of smoke and jasmine. Uzma mutters protective charms under her breath, tying small pouches of herbs to the camels' saddles. The caravan cautiously dismounts. Master's Way and Rafik approach the hooded men, negotiating for safe passage and the right to water their camels. But every step closer reveals the oasis' unnatural perfection. The water reflects the travelers not as they are, but as they fear themselves to be weary, haunted, and marked by unseen flames. One by one, the men and women of the caravan notice subtle distortions in their reflections. Parviz freezes as his own image, smiles faintly, a smile that does not belong to him. The hooded figures step aside, gesturing to the water. Drink, one says, rest. But remember, not all who quench their thirst here leave unchanged. Rafik studies the shadows, weighing his choices. The caravan is exhausted, yet danger lingers in every shimmer, every rustle of palm fronds. Finally, the decision is made. They will rest, but only in shifts, only with watchful eyes, and always keeping the jade pendant close to Parviz. As night falls, the oasis takes on a darker hue. The palm trees cast long, twisting shadows, and the water reflects the moon not as a single orb, but fractured into multiple glowing fragments. Somewhere in the distance, a low hum echoes, familiar, yet different from the desert whispers of the previous night. The caravan sleeps lightly, camels tethered, and fires kept small. Every eye flicks to the water, every ear strains for sound, and the desert holds its breath. The oasis, a shimmering paradise by day, has revealed its true nature, a place of testing, where secrets surface, and the past walks alongside the present. The first night at the Oasis of Shadows ends with unease and vigilance. Parviz dreams of fire and voices, of the men who burned his caravan, and of the jade pendant glowing brighter than the moon above. Lian writes feverishly in her scrolls, her hands shaking from heat and fear, capturing the first signs of the oasis' strange power. And Rafik, standing alone by the edge of the water, whispers a prayer to whatever gods watch the Silk Road, guide us through the night, and keep us from what waits in the shadows. The first light of morning struggles to pierce the heavy haze that clings to the western pass, a narrow corridor carved between jagged cliffs and shifting dunes. The caravan advances cautiously, the oasis now a shimmering memory behind them, its waters and shadows lingering in their minds. Camels move in rhythm with the muted crunch of sand and stone, their padded feet leaving prints that the desert will soon erase. The heat is less intense here, but the terrain is more treacherous. Jagged rocks jut from the sand, and cliffs cast long, black shadows that seem to twitch and stretch with a life of their own. Parviz rides at the front, pendant clutched tightly to his chest. His skin still tingles from the strange energy of the oasis. "I can feel them," he whispers to Rafik, voice tight. "They're waiting." Rafik glances at him, his merchant's mind sharp, reading not just the terrain but the subtle shifts in the air, the faint metallic temps, the restless movement of the sand, the sudden silence among the desert birds. "Keep close," Rafik says, "and do not let fear rule you. The desert tests, but it also reveals those who survive." The pass narrows further, and the caravan slows. From the shadows of the cliffs, faint shapes begin to move, figures clothed in dark cloth, faces masked, riding fast camels. Their movements are deliberate, silent, and coordinated. The guards tense, gripping curved blades and spears, eyes scanning every crevice. Lian rides closer to Rafik, clutching her scrolls to her chest. Bandits, she murmurs, though even she senses something beyond ordinary raiders in their formation. The shadows seem to flicker unnaturally, as if some unseen force bends the light and sand around them. Suddenly, a single arrow whistles past, embedding itself in a boulder mere inches from Rafik. The attack is precise, deliberate, meant to intimidate rather than kill, at least at first. Master Wei signals the caravan to halt and tighten formation. Camels are urged into a protective circle, their heads outward, teeth bared and muscles tense. The bandits emerge from the cliffs, moving like ghosts, their camels seemingly floating over the sand. Parviz tightens his grip on the pendant. The air around him thrums, the same energy he felt at the Oasis. Now alive in the pass, the leader of the bandits steps forward, a figure cloaked in black from head to toe. His voice carries strangely in the narrow pass, soft, melodic, yet commanding. "Travelers of the road," he calls, "you carry goods, treasures, and secrets. Hand them over, and your lives may be spared. Resist, and the desert will claim you before dawn." Rafik steps forward, hand resting on his blade. "We seek passage, not conflict," he replies. The bandit laughs softly, the sound echoing unnaturally off the cliffs. "The desert decides who passes," he says, "and it whispers its judgment to me." The first clash comes without warning. Sand explodes into the air as the bandits charge, riding swiftly from both sides of the pass. The caravan reacts instinctively, camels forming a protective line while guards swing swords and spears. The air fills with the sounds of shouting, the clash of metal, and the cries of camels in panic. Parviz holds tight to the pendant, and a sudden pulse of warmth spreads from it, almost like a shield. One of the bandits leaps toward him, blade raised, but stops abruptly, staggering back as if struck by an invisible force. He falls, clutching his head, eyes wide in terror. Before fleeing into the sand, Rafik fights alongside Master Wei and the guards, defending the caravan while trying to understand the strange phenomena unfolding. Shadows among the bandits twist unnaturally, sometimes detaching from their bodies, slithering over the sand before retreating. Lian scribbles furiously on her scrolls, noting the impossible, the shadows' movements, the unnatural timing of the bandits' strikes. The faint hum that seems to pulse from Parviz and the pendant. Uzma chants, protective incantations, throwing powdered herbs into the wind. Each grain sparkles briefly, forming a small barrier around the more vulnerable traders. The battle rages until the sun dips low in the western sky, and the remaining bandits retreat, leaving a scattering of broken weapons and exhausted camels in their wake. The caravan, though shaken, survives. Parviz lowers the pendant, sweat running down his brow. They feared it," he murmurs. Rafik glances at him, the weight of realization settling in. "Whatever follows this road," he says slowly, "it is more than men, more than bandits. Something ancient is awake here." As night falls, the caravan camps within the narrow pass. Fires kept low, lanterns dim. Every eye scans the cliffs, every ear strains for sound. The desert whispers again, faintly, like the distant echo of the Oasis. The surviving bandits may have fled, but the energy in the pass lingers, a reminder that the road is alive, aware, and merciless. Parviz dreams, again, this time of fire and shadows dancing together, of voices calling from the cliffs. Lian writes by firelight, documenting the first proof that the Silk Road is not only a road of trade, but a road of mysteries, legends, and dangers that defy explanation. Night descends on the western pass like a living thing, swallowing the cliffs in shadow and stretching the dunes into unrecognizable shapes. The caravan moves cautiously, lanterns flickering, camels slow and uneasy. Every traveler feels it, a pulse in the sand beneath their feet, subtle, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakably alive. The battle with the bandits earlier that day has left them exhausted, but the desert offers no rest. The silence is deceptive, thick with expectation, as if the rocks themselves are holding their breath. Parviz rides at the front, pendant warm against his chest, beating in rhythm with his heart. His eyes, dark with worry, scan the horizon where heat and shadow blur together. Suddenly, he freezes. Ahead, the path seems to shimmer like water in the distance. A mirage, he isn't sure. As he approaches, the shimmer resolves into shapes, tents, camels, and figures bustling as though a full caravan awaits him. But something is off. The colors are muted, almost translucent, and the figures' movements are jerky, unnatural, as if they are struggling against invisible currents. Rafik notices Parviz, hesitating. Don't be fooled, he warns. The desert plays tricks. What you see may not exist. Yet curiosity and necessity pushed them forward. Lian rides beside Parviz, eyes wide. It's like the Oasis again, she murmurs. Reflections of what we want, or what the desert wants us to see. The caravan edges closer, each step cautious, each shadow scrutinized. The mirage intensifies. The distant figures now appear to beckon, their gestures oddly familiar. One raises a hand, and Parviz is certain he recognizes the movement. It is the same as the bandit leaders from the previous day. Master Wei signals for the caravan to halt. The camels whine, shifting nervously. This is no ordinary illusion, he says quietly, eyes scanning the cliffs and dunes. The desert does not create mirages like this without purpose. Uzma kneels beside the fire, scattering protective herbs into the wind. The powder catches faint moonlight and sparkles briefly, forming a small, shimmering barrier. She murmurs an incantation, one she learned in Bactria long ago, meant to reveal hidden truths. The air quivers in response, the mirage wavering and flickering like disturbed water. Then the whispers return, soft at first, then louder, circling the caravan, fragmented words, half-understood sentences, and warnings spoken in languages long dead. Turn back, beware, the path is not yours. The voice seems to rise from the very sand, yet it also echoes from the cliffs and shadows. Parviz tightens his grip on the pendant. The warmth spreads through his hand, through his chest, almost protective. The mirage reacts, flickering violently, as if the unseen presence resents his defiance. Suddenly, the illusion sharpens. Figures step from the mirage into the real path, or so it seems. Rafik grips his blade. Lian raises her scrolls in protection, and the guards draw their weapons. But as they advance, the figures dissolve like smoke, leaving only sand and moonlight behind. Parviz gasps. It's not real, yet it feels alive. Lian nods. It is a warning or a test. The desert shows you possibilities, fears, and paths not yet taken. The caravan decides to bypass the illusion, taking a winding route along the cliff's edge. Each step is careful, measured, as the desert's hum grows faint but persistent. Parviz dreams of fire again that night, of his burned caravan, of whispers, and of the pendant glowing brighter than the moon. He awakens to see the pendant faintly pulsing, as though resonating with the desert itself. By dawn, the caravan reaches a natural plateau above the pass. The cliffs fall away to reveal the endless expanse of dunes, glittering in early sunlight. The phantom mirage is behind them, but its impression lingers. The desert is alive, aware, and capable of bending perception. The travelers feel it. This road is more than trade and survival. It is a place of tests, of forces unseen, and of stories that will demand courage beyond the ordinary. As they continue, each member of the caravan carries the knowledge that the desert watches, that shadows have their own memory, and that the Silk Road at night is a path where reality and illusion often collide. The journey ahead promises more danger, more mystery, and the faint, persistent hum of the desert, a constant reminder that nothing on this road is ever truly as it seems. The sun hangs low over the western horizon, spilling blood-red light across jagged cliffs that rise like the spines of ancient beasts. The caravan approaches the Crimson Canyon, a narrow gorge carved by centuries of wind and flood. Its walls streaked with shades of copper, scarlet, and deep rust. The rocks seem to glow as though the canyon itself contains a hidden fire. Even in the fading light, shadows stretch unnaturally along the canyon floor, creeping across the sand in ways that defy the sun's movement. Every traveler senses it. The canyon is alive, a breathing entity that has watched every caravan that dared enter its mouth. Parviz rides at the front, his jade pendant warm against his chest, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. "This place," he murmurs, voice low. "I've heard tales, whispers from those who survived the road. They say the walls watch, that the canyon remembers." Rafik, scanning the cliffs above, doesn't answer immediately. His eyes follow subtle movements in the rock, tiny shadows shifting against the crimson walls, as if the canyon itself breathes. "Stories often exaggerate," he says finally, "but always carry a grain of truth." Even as he speaks, a cold gust rises from the gorge, carrying with it the scent of smoke and something more ancient, iron, dust, and the faint tints of dried blood. Lian rides beside Parviz, clutching her scrolls tightly. "Legends call this canyon the Road of Fire," she whispers, almost to herself. "Merchants, travelers, and even soldiers have disappeared here. Some say the canyon feeds on fear, others that it tests the hearts of those who enter." The caravan moves cautiously into the gorge, camels stepping carefully over uneven rocks and loose sand. Each footstep echoes off the canyon walls, a sharp reminder that sound itself behaves differently here, bouncing and twisting in ways that disorient the mind. The temperature drops as they proceed deeper, the fading sun unable to reach all corners of the canyon. Shadows coalesce into shapes, subtle at first, then more distinct. Figures appear on ledges, carved from rock, yet eerily lifelike, faces frozen in expressions of pain, laughter, or rage. Parviz tenses, gripping the pendant. "It's like they're watching, judging," he says. Rafik studies the figures carefully. "These are tricks of the light and shadow," he says. "Or perhaps warnings left by those who came before us. Either way, we cannot falter." Suddenly, a low rumble shakes the canyon floor. Rocks shift, small stones skittering across sand, camels braying in fear. A narrow wall of dust rises ahead, curling like smoke. Parviz feels a surge from the jade pendant, warmth spreading through his chest and arms. Lian's eyes widen. The canyon, it's alive, not just in stories, it reacts. The rumble grows louder, echoing off the crimson walls, like the roar of some colossal creature. Shadows on the cliffs begin to move independently of the sun, slithering downward toward the caravan. Masterway signals the caravan to halt. Form a circle, he commands. Camels are brought together, facing outward, hooves digging into sand for stability. The guards raise their weapons, swords glinting faintly in the dim light. Uzma scatters herbs and begins chanting protective incantations, smoke curling around the group like a shield. Even the children huddle, silent and wide-eyed. Parviz steps to the center, pendant pressed to his chest, feeling a strange resonance, a pulse that seems to synchronize with the rumbling walls themselves. The canyon seems to respond. Shadows lengthen, twisting into forms that almost resemble the bandits, the hooded figures from the Oasis, and yet distort into grotesque shapes impossible to comprehend. The rumble becomes a vibration underfoot, like the heartbeat of the canyon, synchronized with the warmth pulsing from the jade pendant. Parviz whispers, almost to himself, "It wants us to be afraid, but it respects courage." Liane records the phenomenon frantically, ink smearing on her scrolls. "This is more than legend," she mutters. The canyon holds memory, power, consciousness. As night falls, the caravan sets up a temporary camp in a small alcove, fire low to avoid attracting attention. The crimson walls glow faintly under the moonlight, pulsing as though alive. Every shadow seems to move, every breeze carries whispers, fragmented, unintelligible, but unmistakably deliberate. Parviz dreams of fire and glowing eyes, of the pendant vibrating in harmony with the canyon, warning him of trials yet to come. Liane writes feverishly, documenting every sensation, every whisper, and every movement. Rafik and Masterway maintain watch, blades at the ready, aware that the canyon itself is a test, and that failure could mean more than death. The caravan has entered the heart of the Crimson Canyon, and the night promises to be the first of many in which the desert tests the limits of courage, perception, and survival. Every traveler knows it. The Silk Road at night is no longer merely a road of trade and travelers. It is a road of fire, shadow, and stories that challenge the boundaries between reality and legend. Night falls deeper in the Crimson Canyon, the walls now glowing faintly red under the light of a rising moon. The fire the caravan has built flickers weakly against the wind that snakes down the gorge, carrying whispers that are almost intelligible, fragments of voices, half-words, long-lost names. Every traveler feels the weight of the canyon pressing in. The rock seems to lean closer, shadows stretching unnaturally, and the echoes of sound twisting in impossible ways. Parviz sits by the fire, the jade pendant warm and pulsing like a second heartbeat. The whispers swirl around him, brushing against his mind, urging fear but also promising insight. Rafik surveys the walls with a mixture of caution and fascination. "These aren't ordinary shadows," he murmurs. "They respond to us, to our fear, our hesitation, even our courage." He gestures toward a dark fissure in the canyon wall. From it, faint orange glows flicker like distant flames, though no smoke rises. Liane leans closer, squinting. "They move," she whispers, "like living fire, or memory made manifest." Each spark echoes something from the past, echoes of travelers, merchants, bandits, even warriors who vanished in this canyon long ago. As the night deepens, the canyon seems to breathe. The glow intensifies, forming shapes, flickering silhouettes of riders, merchants, and soldiers, each repeating moments from long ago journeys. Some appear to argue, others stumble and fall, some point desperately toward invisible exits. Parviz shivers. "It's like the canyon is showing us what happened here," he says, "and what might happen to us." The warmth of his pendant grows stronger, pulsing in sync with the faint flames. It feels protective, yet alive, as if aware of the canyon's intent. Suddenly, a ripple of fire arcs across the canyon floor. It is not ordinary flame. It moves in deliberate, intelligent patterns, weaving between the caravan, stopping just short of the camels, and forming intricate shapes that resemble words in forgotten scripts. Uzma gasps and mutters prayers under her breath, scattering powdered herbs into the glow. Each grain hisses softly as it touches the flames, momentarily illuminating figures frozen in the fire's pattern. Travelers from other caravans, some smiling, some screaming. The desert has become a living canvas of memory, a mirror reflecting not just the past, but the fears and desires of those who tread its paths. Rafiq draws his blade, the metal reflecting the strange firelight. "Keep calm," he orders. "They cannot harm us if we do not flinch. Stand together." Parviz grips the pendant, feeling it pulse hotter, as though absorbing his courage and deflecting the canyon's will. Lian steps closer to the fire, documenting the shapes and patterns, murmuring, "This is a language, a warning, a test." Even Master Wei, ever practical and unflappable, senses something beyond comprehension. He motions the guards to keep the circle tight, eyes flicking to every shadow, every flicker of the whispering flames. The canyon seems to respond to the travelers' collective resolve. The flames shift, separating into smaller arcs, swirling harmlessly along the sand instead of threatening the caravan. Yet the whispers continue, fragmented sentences, snatches of lost languages, murmurs of merchants long dead. One voice cuts through the chaos, clearly, almost human, almost kind. "Only the fearless may pass." Parviz swallows hard, feeling the pendant burn briefly against his chest. The canyon is testing them, measuring courage and fear alike by dawn. The whispering flames recede, dissolving into glowing embers that scatter like fireflies across the canyon floor. The caravan, exhausted but unharmed, begins to move forward. The Crimson Canyon has left its mark. Every traveler carries a deeper understanding of the desert's power and a heightened wariness of the road ahead. Parviz clasps the pendant, knowing that it has chosen him not just for protection, but for something greater. Lian carefully rolls her scrolls, ink smeared with sweat and smoke, recording the first tangible proof that the canyon is alive, a conscious entity intertwined with the Silk Road itself. The canyon narrows ahead, and a faint, chilling wind whispers through the pass. Rafiq looks back at the caravan, his expression grave. "This is only the beginning," he murmurs. "The desert remembers, and the road will demand more from us before our journey ends." The caravan moves on, shadows stretching behind them like silent watchers, carrying with them the memory of the whispering flames and the knowledge that the Crimson Canyon will forever remain a living legend in their minds. The canyon grows darker with each step, the walls narrowing until the sky above is little more than a thin silver ribbon. Shadows stretch unnaturally, twisting and overlapping, forming grotesque figures that seem to follow the caravan's every movement. The Crimson Canyon is no longer just a place. It has become a trial. The air is thick with heat and the faint scent of smoke, tinged with something metallic and ancient, like the residue of countless lives lost to its depths. Every traveler feels the weight of unseen eyes pressing from the cliffs above. Measuring, judging, calculating, Parviz leads cautiously, pendant pressing against his chest. Its warmth has grown insistent, pulsing with a rhythm that seems to echo the canyon itself. "It's testing us again," he murmurs. "Not just our courage, our resolve, our unity." Rafiq rides beside him, eyes scanning every rock, every flicker of shadow. "Stay close," he instructs. "Fear will turn the canyon against us. Trust in your strength, and in each other." Lian rides near the rear, documenting every whisper, every movement, her scrolls smudged and curling from the heat. "It's like the canyon feeds on what we fear most," she says quietly, "and mirrors our choices before us." The first attack comes silently. Shadows detach from the crimson walls, forming human-like figures that move with fluidity impossible for ordinary men. They flank the caravan from both sides, gliding just above the sand, silent except for the faintest scraping sound like nails on stone. Camels bray and shift nervously. Master Wei signals the guards to form a circle, weapons drawn, but the figures do not engage in ordinary combat. They study the travelers, pausing, tilting their heads, as if reading intentions. A whisper rises, clear and commanding: "Face the fear within, or perish to the shadow without." The words echo unnaturally, bouncing off the walls, embedding themselves in the minds of each traveler. Parviz feels the pendant pulse violently. Flames flare from the canyon floor, small blue-tinted fire arcs that do not burn but illuminate the figures in terrifying detail. Faces of lost merchants, bandits, soldiers, distorted and twisted, stare at the caravan with empty eyes. "It's showing us what could happen," Lian says, trembling. "The worst fears of the road, made flesh." Rafik takes a deep breath. "Form a tight circle. Keep moving forward. Do not fight shadows. Show courage." The caravan advances slowly. Each step seems to summon more shadow figures, swirling in patterns around them. Uzma chants protective incantations, throwing herbs into the air. Sparks burst on contact with shadows, creating a brief but brilliant illumination, enough to reveal that some of the figures mimic the movements of the travelers themselves, twisted and exaggerated. As if reflecting inner fears, Parviz steps forward, pendant held high. The warmth flares, a radiant glow that seems to repel the shadows. One of the figures detaches and lunges, but halts mid-air frozen, as though the pendant itself has created a boundary the canyon cannot penetrate. Rafik joins him, sword raised, voice steady. "Do not succumb." The canyon feeds on hesitation. Slowly, deliberately, the caravan moves through the passage, shadow figures receding just enough to allow passage. Every heartbeat feels magnified, every whisper of wind amplified. Hours pass, and the trial reaches its climax. The canyon narrows into a natural choke point, walls towering above, shadows thickening like living smoke. The final command comes, not from a voice, but from the pendant itself, vibrating in Parviz's hand. "Step forward. Confront the reflection of your own fear." One by one, travelers face their mirrored fears, visions of failure, loss, and death, each confronted silently, without panic. Parviz sees the burned remains of his lost caravan materialize among the shadows, flames licking at phantom figures. He grips the jade tightly, murmuring prayers and affirmations of courage. Slowly the vision dissolves, replaced by stillness, by dawn. The caravan emerges from the heart of the Crimson Canyon. The walls no longer glow, the shadows retreating back into the rock, leaving nothing but sand, sun, and silence. Every traveler is changed, weary, shaken, yet strengthened. Lian's scrolls are filled with sketches and notes of shadow figures, whispering flames, and the canyon's strange, responsive nature. Parviz clutches the pendant, now cool but heavy in his hand, understanding its purpose. Not just protection, but guidance. A beacon through the unseen forces of the Silk Road. Rafik surveys the canyon behind them, cliffs glowing faintly in morning light. "The road will continue to test us," he says, "but now we know courage and unity are as vital as any blade, any coin, any camel. The desert remembers all who pass, and it will remember us." The caravan moves onward, deeper into the western desert, leaving the Crimson Canyon behind, carrying with them the memory of shadows, whispers, and flames, and the knowledge that the Silk Road is a path where legend and reality intertwine. The caravan emerges from the Crimson Canyon into a landscape that seems almost otherworldly. Before them stretches the salt flats of Turpin, a vast expanse of white-crusted earth, so bright it nearly blinds in daylight. The ground gleams like fractured glass, reflecting the sun with dazzling intensity. The horizon appears to ripple, illusions shimmering across the flats as if the earth itself were liquid. The desert here is merciless, a barren expanse that tests endurance as much as courage. Heat rises in waves, and even the wind feels sharp and metallic, carrying the faint scent of minerals and dried salt. Parviz shields his eyes with a hand, pendant warm in his palm. "It's like the sun has been fractured," he murmurs. "Everywhere you look, it's endless." Rafik squints, scanning the horizon. "Mirages will be our greatest enemy here," he says. "Even the strongest mind can be fooled. The flats play tricks, paths vanish, water appears where none exists, and the reflection of the sky can swallow a traveler whole." Lian, ever observant, records the reflections of camels and humans on the salt-crusted ground, noting the distortion in shapes and light. "We must travel slowly," she warns. "One wrong step could mean disorientation, even death." The caravan progresses cautiously, camels stepping gingerly over the brittle salt. Their hooves crack the crust with a sharp, hollow sound. The heat is intense, even at dawn, and the travelers feel it radiating off the flats, amplifying every fatigue and fear from the canyon behind them. Parviz notices the reflections of the caravan stretching unnaturally across the ground. Some figures appear taller, others duplicated, and a few seem to move independently, as though mocking reality. "The flats distort more than vision," he mutters. "They distort perception itself." Rafik leads from the front, measuring the salt's firmness with each step. "Stick together," he commands. "If you wander, the flats will hide you. If you falter, they will erase your path." The caravan tightens formation, camels drawn close, lanterns kept dim to avoid glaring reflections that might attract predators, both natural and supernatural. Even Uzma, who has faced countless deserts, mutters prayers under her breath and sprinkles protective herbs along the leading edge, knowing instinctively that this place demands vigilance. By midday, the sun reaches its zenith, relentless and unforgiving. Heat shimmers over the flats, creating mirages of water, oases, and distant caravan camps that vanish as they approach. Parvis's vision flickers. He sees a familiar figure walking toward him through the shimmer, the hooded bandit from the western pass. He calls out, but the figure disappears before a response can be made. Rafik notices the hesitation in Parvis's gait. "Do not chase illusions," he warns. "The flats will take those who lose focus." Lian adds, quietly, "Mirages here are not just tricks. They may be warnings, or traps left by the desert itself." As evening approaches, shadows lengthen across the salt flats. The reflected sunlight fades, leaving a grayish shimmer on the brittle surface. Movement in the distance catches the eye. Faint shapes approaching, neither clearly human nor entirely shadow. The caravan tightens, swords and staffs at the ready. The wind carries faint whispers, echoes of voices and footsteps, though no one is visible. Parviz holds the jade pendant close. It vibrates faintly, as if warning of danger. The desert here is not silent. It hums with energy, aware of each traveler, testing their endurance and alertness as night falls. The salt flats reflect the pale moonlight, glowing like a frozen sea. The caravan sets a minimal camp, camels tethered, lanterns dimmed, eyes scanning the horizon. Even in sleep, the travelers are uneasy, for the flats have a way of revealing fears in dreams, echoes of past missteps. Mirages turned menacing, whispers carried by the wind, parviz dreams again of fire, shadow, and distant flames. But this time the reflection of the sun seems to dance in time with the pendant, casting patterns across the desert that hint at trials yet to come. By the first hour of darkness, the caravan rests lightly, knowing that the salt flats of Turpan are not just a crossing, they are a mirror of the sun, a place where perception bends, illusions become danger, and the desert itself seems to test the spirit. The journey continues, every step a negotiation with heat, light, and unseen forces, reminding the travelers that the Silk Road at night is as treacherous as it is legendary. The moon casts a cold, silvery light over the endless expanse of the salt flats of Turpan, turning the brittle white crust into a sea of spectral glass. The caravan moves cautiously, each camel step producing a hollow crack, a reminder of how fragile this desert world is. The heat of the day has faded, but the flats offer no comfort. Darkness here is deceptive. Reflections of the moon on the salt create illusions of moving shapes, sometimes merging with shadows to form what feels like walking figures. Every traveler senses eyes watching, not from cliffs, not from trees, but from the ground itself. From the desert, Parviz rides at the front, jade pendant glowing faintly in his palm. "They're here," he whispers. Rafiq leans forward, scanning the horizon. "Who?" Parviz swallows, eyes narrowing at the flicker of movement across the flats. Shadows detach themselves from the silvery salt, forming tall, humanoid shapes that glide toward the caravan. They move unnaturally, with fluidity that no human could replicate. Stepping silently yet purposefully, Lian's inked scrolls rustle in her hands as she writes, recording the shapes. "Mirage hunters," she murmurs, her voice trembling. Legends speak of them, spirits or guardians, feeding on travelers' fear. The mirage hunters advance. Their forms are indistinct in the reflection of the moonlit salt, humanoid, but their features seem to shift constantly, like smoke curling around unseen bones. Uzma scatters protective herbs in front of the caravan, a line of fragrant smoke curling along the salt crust. "They thrive on uncertainty," she warns. "Keep your mind focused, your fear controlled. One wavering step, and they will pull you into the flat's illusions, never to return." The caravan tightens formation, camels huddling closer, their soft whinnies muffled by the hush of the desert. One of the hunters glides forward, stopping mere meters from Parviz. Its face twists and reforms, reflecting his deepest fears, the fire that consumed his caravan, the cries of lost traders, and shadows of death he has seen in dreams. The pendant pulses violently, as though reacting to the presence. Parviz whispers a prayer, pressing it against his chest. The hunter steps back slightly, recoiling from the pendant's warmth. Lian observes carefully. Jotting notes, the hunters avoid objects or talismans resonating with courage or purpose. Rafiq signals the caravan forward. Slowly, deliberately, the mirage hunters advance with them, matching each step but never directly touching the travelers. The flats themselves shift, one moment solid, the next seeming liquid. Reflections of the caravan stretch and duplicate endlessly, creating false paths and phantom travelers that vanish when approached. Every misstep risks disorientation. The flats are alive, aware, testing not only courage, but navigation and perception. Hours pass. Exhaustion sets in, sweat cooling rapidly in the night air. The hunters continue their silent pursuit, shapes constantly morphing, forcing the caravan to remain vigilant. Parviz notices patterns in their movement, subtle pauses, repeated arcs, tiny delays that suggest intent. He murmurs to Rafik, "They're not just hunting fear, they're guiding us, or testing us." Rafik nods grimly, "Perhaps. But any miscalculation, and this desert won't forgive." By the early hours of dawn, the first faint light breaks across the flats. The mirage hunters retreat slowly, dissolving into the glimmering surface as the salt reflects the growing sun. The caravan exhales collectively, weary but alive. Every traveler has faced illusions of loss, shadowed forms of death, and the hypnotic trickery of the flats. Parviz's pendant cools, still pulsing faintly as a reminder of the desert's attention. Liane rolls her ink-stained scrolls, her hands trembling from adrenaline and cold. The salt flats of Turpan have exacted their trial, leaving the caravan with a profound understanding. This desert tests both body and mind. Every step ahead will demand courage, clarity, and unity, for the road is alive and memory-laden. Rafik looks ahead, the horizon streaked with pale sunlight. The flats are behind us, but the desert's lessons remain. Keep your eyes sharp and your courage closer. The caravan resumes its journey, footprints glimmering in the salt, fragile, fleeting, yet defiant. By midday, the salt flats of Turpan begin to waver like a white sea under the scorching sun. In the distance, a shimmer rises, a familiar yet treacherous sight, an oasis. Palms sway, and water glints, as if welcoming the caravan. Relief spreads among the travelers, even the camels quicken their pace. But the desert is not a place of mercy. This is no ordinary oasis. Legends whisper of the oasis of broken mirrors, a place where reflections deceive, desires tempt, and the boundary between reality and illusion collapses. Parviz notices the first strange anomaly before anyone else. The water does not reflect the sky above. Instead, it shows scenes of the travelers themselves, moments that haven't yet occurred. Rafik notices it next. A version of the caravan staggering in panic, camels running in every direction, shadows reaching out as if to snatch them from the desert. "Stay alert," he warns. The oasis does not give water freely. It tests the mind as much as the body. Liane writes furiously in her scrolls, capturing the shifting, impossible reflections. "This is predictive," she murmurs. "Not just memory, but possibility, fear, and desire all fused into one." As they approach, the oasis seems to ripple and distort. The sand around the water shimmers like glass, and each step forward produces double or triple reflections of themselves. Parviz feels the jade pendant warming violently against his chest, its pulse echoing the undulations of the water. The reflections of lost traders, burning caravans, and faceless shadows appear along the edges, staring back, whispering warnings that scrape at the mind. Uzma mutters protective incantations and scatters herbs in circles, yet even these measures seem tenuous against the pervasive illusion. A soft, melodic voice emerges from the rippling water. "Drink, weary travelers, quench your thirst, and see what you truly desire." The travelers hesitate. One by one, mirages of what they long for most appear, camels laden with treasure, messages from lost family, glimpses of glory and safety. The temptation is nearly irresistible, each vision crafted perfectly to the traveler's heart. Parviz sees his family standing at the edge of the water, smiling. His throat tightens. Liane witnesses a version of herself teaching students under a great library, far from danger. Rafik glimpses a caravan arriving safely at distant lands. Untouched by desert trials. Master Wei steps forward, voice cutting through the illusion. Do not drink. Do not follow what the desert wants you to see, he commands. These are reflections, not reality. The oasis of broken mirrors feeds on doubt, on desire. Step carefully, one misstep, and you may never leave. Parviz grips the pendant tightly. Its warmth flows through him, anchoring him to the present, shielding him from the lure of the water. The others follow his lead, forming a careful circle around the oasis, camels tethered, eyes unbroken by illusions, as the caravan navigates around the deceptive waters. A low rumble shakes the salt flats, sending ripples across the oasis surface. Shadows detach from the reflections in the water, forming humanoid figures with fractured faces, one half real, one half mirrored. They advance slowly, testing the traveler's focus. Parviz's pendant pulses stronger than ever, sending a faint light over the shadows, forcing them to hesitate. With coordinated discipline, Rafiq, Master Wei, and Uzma guide the caravan, ignoring the siren call of desire, and move steadily forward. By nightfall, the caravan crosses the edges of the oasis. The reflections vanish, leaving only ordinary water, salt, and sand. The travelers are exhausted but wiser, having faced the illusions of longing, fear, and temptation. Lian carefully documents every flicker of the broken reflections, knowing that these records are proof that the desert is not only alive but conscious. Parviz's pendant cools, its pulse steady but watchful. The oasis has been survived, but its lesson lingers. Desire can be as dangerous as fire, and illusion can be as lethal as any bandit or natural hazard. As the caravan sets up camp on the far edge of the flats, the wind whispers faintly across the salt. Shadows stretch long under the moonlight, and for the first time, a collective understanding settles among the travelers. The Silk Road is not merely a road for trade, it is a crucible, testing courage, unity, perception, and the human heart itself. The caravan leaves the salt flats of Turpan behind as the first rays of dawn stretch across the horizon. Ahead lies the Gobi Desert, an expanse so vast and merciless that even the seasoned travelers feel a chill at the thought of crossing it. Unlike the crystalline salt flats, the Gobi is harsh and sprawling, a desert of ochre sands, jagged cliffs, and barren plateaus that stretch endlessly in every direction. The air shimmers in waves of heat by day, and by night it transforms into a bitter cold, seeping through layered robes and chilling bones. This is a desert that does not merely test strength, it challenges endurance, sanity, and perception itself. Parviz rides at the front, jade pendant warm against his chest, its pulse steady but insistent. It's bigger than anything we've crossed before, he murmurs. The sands stretch to the horizon, empty except for occasional rock outcroppings. Shadows fall long in the early morning sun, but they seem almost alive, twisting and shifting with a subtle, imperceptible movement. Rafiq rides beside him, scanning the horizon with narrowed eyes. The Gobi does not forgive mistakes, he says. Even the wind can kill here. Even a misjudged step can separate a traveler from life. Stay close, stay vigilant. Lian rides behind, scrolls secured, her eyes constantly flicking to the distant dunes. This desert has its own memory, she says quietly. Every footprint, every whisper, every traveler who has crossed it leaves an imprint. Sometimes those echoes return, sometimes in warning, sometimes in danger. Uzma murmurs protective charms under her breath, sprinkling powdered herbs into the wind. Each grain sparks faintly as it touches the dry air, forming ephemeral, glowing patterns that drift like the wisps across the sand. The children of the caravan huddle close to the camels, uneasy and wide-eyed, sensing a presence in the desert that cannot be seen but is deeply felt. The day stretches into noon. The sun climbs high, a merciless orb reflecting off pale rock and sand, creating a heat that feels like it presses down from all sides. The caravan moves slowly, camels plodding, breathing shallow and heavy. The heat shimmers across the sands, forming mirages, pools of water that vanish as the caravan approaches, distant cliffs that twist and shift as if alive. Parviz sees a figure in the distance, a traveler waving for help, silhouette hazy and shifting in the heat. He calls out, but the figure melts into the air before a response can come. It's the Gobi, Rafiq murmurs grimly. It tests patience and punishes hope when it is misplaced. By afternoon, the wind begins to rise, gentle at first, then stronger, carrying fine grains of sand that sting faces and burn eyes. The dunes appear to shift in real time, growing, collapsing, forming new ridges. The caravan tightens formation, camels close together, guards circling. Parviz clutches the pendant. Its warmth spreads through his chest and down his arms. He senses a subtle pulse beneath the sand itself, as if the desert is alive, a heartbeat too faint for ordinary travelers to feel, yet insistent, aware, and attentive. The caravan moves cautiously, aware that one misstep in this desert could mean being lost forever among its ever-changing sands. By late afternoon, a vast plateau of rock rises ahead, a natural pass through which the caravan must move to avoid being trapped in an endless dune sea. As they approach, shadows lengthen and twist unnaturally. Shapes move along the rocks, glimpsed only in peripheral vision. Sometimes they appear humanoid, sometimes as abstract forms, flashes of black that dart over the ochre stone, too quick for identification. Parviz tenses. The desert is alive here, he whispers to Lian. It watches, it waits, and it chooses when to act. Lian nods silently, writing furiously in her scrolls. The shapes are elusive, impossible to capture fully on paper. Yet she records every motion, every flicker, every sense of looming presence. The night descends suddenly, and with it comes a biting cold that sweeps across the desert like a blade. Lanterns flicker, fires burn low, and the caravan huddles close. Even the camels shiver in the chill. Parviz dreams of the sands moving like waves, carrying shadows, whispers, and faintly glowing symbols across the dunes. He wakes to see the pendant pulsing gently, as if aware of the trial awaiting them in the darkness. In the distance, the wind carries whispers, faint, deliberate, almost melodic. They are not words yet, but they tug at the mind, pulling travelers into fleeting visions, lost paths, phantom caravans, and unseen dangers lurking in the dunes. By midnight, a low sandstorm begins to form in the distance, its horizon glowing faintly under moonlight. Rafiq signals the caravan to halt and take shelter near a natural rock formation. The storm is fast-moving, unpredictable, and its whirling sands carry more than just grit. They seem to carry echoes of the desert, whispers of travelers past, and the faint sensation of unseen eyes watching. The caravan huddles together, camels tethered tightly, herbs burning, scrolls and weapons close. Every member feels it. The Gobi tests endurance, focus, and courage in ways no other desert has. The first night in the Gobi desert is long and restless. Every sound, a distant howl, the scrape of sand, the whisper of wind, feels amplified. The desert is alive, aware, and relentless. Every traveler understands. This crossing will not just test their physical endurance, but their minds, their courage, and their very sense of reality. The Silk Road has become more than a path. It is a crucible, and the Gobi its harshest trial yet. The The caravan barely has time to brace itself when the first winds of the Gobi sandstorm sweep across the desert. Arriving like a living wall of grit and fury, the sky darkens unnaturally, an ochre haze blotting out the moon and stars. The air grows thick with sand, stinging faces and filling eyes, noses, and mouths with fine particles. Camels bray in panic, hooves slipping on the uneven dunes as the wind threatens to topple travelers. Parviz grips the pendant tightly, feeling its pulse intensify, like it is struggling against the storm itself. "Hold on," Rafik shouts, his voice barely audible over the roar of the desert. The storm moves unpredictably, swirling in eddies and vortexes. Shadows detach from the sand, slithering like smoke with minds of their own. They dart among the camel's legs, curling around travelers' arms and legs, always avoiding direct contact, but brushing just enough to cause an icy shiver. Lian huddles close to Rafik, her scrolls pressed tight to her chest. "These shadows," she shouts over the wind, "they aren't just wind tricks, they're conscious. The desert is manifesting its memory." Even Uzma, seasoned in protective charms, struggles to maintain the circle of herbs, throwing powder that sparks briefly before dissolving into the storm. Parviz sees a figure in the distance, a traveler, illuminated faintly by flashes of reflected moonlight on the sand. But the figure is wrong. Its movements are jerky, its proportions slightly off, as if it were a shadow trying to mimic a human. When he approaches, the figure vanishes, leaving only a swirl of sand in its place. "It's luring us," he shouts to Rafik. "It wants us to lose our path." Rafik narrows his eyes, scanning the horizon through the blinding storm. "Do not follow shapes. Follow the pendant. Follow each other. Trust in what is real." The caravan fights forward, each step an exercise in endurance and coordination. The sandstorm moves with eerie intelligence, funneling gusts into narrow channels to push travelers off the path. Every misstep produces a miniature whirl of sand that seems to bite at the ankles, trying to separate them from the group. Parviz clutches the jade pendant. It glows faintly through the haze, pulsing stronger with each surge of wind. Slowly, its warmth spreads across the caravan, giving a subtle guidance, a rhythm to follow amid chaos. As the storm rages, shadows solidify into larger forms, humanoid, armored, yet entirely composed of swirling sand and light. They advance in deliberate arcs, blocking paths, circling the caravan, and at moments, mimicking past fears, bandits, phantom fires, or even lost friends, twisted into unnatural forms. Lian scribbles furiously, her ink smudging, trying to capture the shapes, movements, and even the ephemeral patterns in the wind. "They are testing our focus," she shouts. "Do not flinch. Do not succumb to fear." Hours pass. The storm intensifies, and then, just as suddenly, the winds die down, leaving silence as profound as the storm was violent. The shadows dissipate, curling into the dunes like smoke returning to a fire. Camels stumble but remain with the caravan. Travelers breathe heavily, faces streaked with sweat, sand, and grime. Parviz lowers the pendant. Its warmth lingers faintly, like a heartbeat still echoing. Rafik exhales, surveying the path ahead. "The desert allowed us passage," he murmurs, "but it remembers every tremor of fear, every falter of step. The Gobi does not forgive weakness, but it acknowledges courage." By dawn, the caravan continues its crossing, battered but alive. The storm has tested not just their endurance, but their unity, focus, and courage. The Gobi has left its mark. Footprints are now etched into the sands, not only of the physical path, but also in memory, shadow, and whispered lessons of survival. Parviz gazes at the horizon, understanding that each desert trial shapes more than the journey. It shapes the soul of every traveler. The Silk Road is no longer just a route for trade. It is a crucible where the desert, shadows, and the supernatural meet, and only those who endure can claim passage. By midday, the Gobi Desert stretches endlessly, a sea of ochre sand and jagged rocks under a relentless sun. The storm from the previous night has left its mark. Dunes shifted, camels tired, travelers exhausted, yet the horizon reveals a glimmer of hope, an oasis. Palms sway gently, and water glints in the sunlight, promising rest, shade, and relief from the merciless desert. But the Gobi has taught them caution. Beauty here is often a mask for danger. This is the Phantom Oasis, a place whispered about in caravans' tales, where desire and fear collide and reality bends with terrifying ease. Parviz notices the first warning signs immediately. The water appears to ripple unnaturally, reflecting images not of the present but of the traveler's deepest desires. Camels approach and hesitate, ears flicking nervously. Shadows along the palms twist and stretch, forming faces of lost friends, merchants, or even creatures glimpsed in nightmares. "It's not real," he whispers, voice tight with tension, pressing the jade pendant to his chest. Its warmth surges as if recognizing the danger, radiating protective energy that keeps him grounded. Rafiq rides cautiously to the forefront. "This oasis is a test," he shouts over the soft rustle of leaves, "not of water, but of perception. It feeds on longing and fear alike. Step carefully. Drink only if you are certain of reality." Liane leans forward on her camel, eyes wide as she sketches the palm reflections and the shifting water. "The reflections, they aren't just mirrors," she says. "They're illusions of possibility, temptations of the heart. Some travelers never leave because they cannot distinguish the phantom from the real." As the caravan nears the water, strange phenomena begin to manifest. The oasis seems to expand and contract. Shadows of travelers appear alongside them, sometimes out of sync, sometimes moving independently. Parviz sees himself on the opposite bank, beckoning toward the water. A whisper drifts through the palms, "Step closer, and all your wishes will be fulfilled." His heart pounds, but the pendant pulses insistently. He exhales, reminding himself, illusions prey on desire. He turns away, motioning the others to keep their focus. Suddenly, the water rises unnaturally, forming a shimmering wall. Within its surface, figures move: merchants from past caravans, phantom camels, and spectral bandits, frozen in impossible gestures. Some seem to reach out, warning, pleading, or mocking. Uzma sprinkles protective herbs along the caravan's path, muttering prayers that spark brief, glowing sparks when they hit the water's surface. The caravan halts, forming a tight circle. Camels whinny softly, sensing the unnatural energy radiating from the oasis. The desert wind rises subtly, carrying faint echoes of voices from previous travelers who vanished here. One voice is clear: only those who know their hearts may pass. Parviz feels the pendant's warmth surge, as though urging courage. He takes a step forward deliberately, ignoring the illusions of water and reflections, and calls to the others. Slowly, they follow, anchoring themselves in the reality of each other's presence. The shadows twist and writhe, attempting to distract, to lure them into the water, but the caravan's unity shields them. Hours pass as the travelers navigate the phantom waters, moving along a narrow path of cracked salt and sand between the shimmering illusions. Every misstep threatens to dissolve into the mirage, yet Parviz, Rafiq, Liane, and the others maintain focus. Finally, As the sun dips toward the horizon, the illusions shatter like glass, evaporating into faint mist. The oasis is revealed in its true form, a modest pool, palms real and unthreatening, calm and still. The phantom oasis has been survived, and the caravan emerges wiser and stronger, understanding that the desert's trials are not only of body and endurance, but of mind and spirit. The travelers set a small camp near the water, lanterns low, fires careful. The Gobi wind whispers faintly across the sands, carrying lessons of patience, courage, and clarity. Parviz rests, pendant pulsing softly, aware that each step in this desert is a negotiation with perception, desire, and fear. The Silk Road stretches onward, a path where reality and illusion intertwine, and only the vigilant, united, and courageous may pass safely. The caravan leaves the harsh expanse of the Gobi Desert behind, but no relief awaits. Rising before them are jagged cliffs and rocky spires, marking the entrance to the shadowed pass of Kizil, a narrow mountain corridor that snakes like a wound through the ochre stone. Unlike the vast openness of the desert, the pass is claustrophobic. Walls tower above, cutting off the sky and sunlight. Even in midday, shadows stretch unnaturally, pooling in corners and deep fissures, giving the impression that the mountains themselves are alive, watching and waiting. Parviz rides at the front, jade pendant pressed against his chest. Its warmth is comforting yet insistent, warning him of unseen dangers. "This place," he whispers, voice tight with tension. "It feels alive, like it knows we're coming." Rafik rides beside him, scanning every crevice, every outcropping of stone. The Kizil Pass is treacherous, not for sand or heat, but for what it hides, he says grimly. Legends speak of travelers who vanished, their camels and goods left behind, the only sign of passage being faint whispers and shadows lingering long after. Lian leans forward, scrolls in hand, her eyes darting along the walls of the pass. "The walls themselves record memory," she murmurs. "Every traveler leaves an imprint. Some pass in silence, others in fear, and sometimes the pass responds with wind, shadows, or visions. We must move carefully. One wrong step could awaken it." The camels snort and shift nervously, ears flicking at imperceptible sounds echoing from the cliffs. Uzma walks among the travelers, scattering protective herbs and murmuring incantations, creating faint circles of light that shimmer along the rock face. The path narrows quickly, forcing the caravan into single file. Every sound is amplified. The scrape of a camel's hoof, the shifting of sand, the whisper of wind curling through crevices. Shadows stretch and twist, creating forms that are almost humanoid, yet impossible. Sometimes they seem to follow the travelers. Sometimes they merge with the rock itself, appearing only in peripheral vision. Parviz feels the pendant pulse stronger with every twist in the path, its warmth a reminder of vigilance and courage. Midway through the pass, the first real danger manifests. Rocks shift suddenly above, a minor landslide triggered, or perhaps guided, by unseen forces. Small stones clatter down, narrowly missing camels and travelers. The shadows on the cliffs respond, coalescing into human-like figures that seem to study the caravan, mimicking gestures, and sometimes freezing mid-motion in impossible poses. Rafik signals the group to halt. "Do not panic," he warns. "The pass tests fear and reaction. React in haste, and you may stumble into traps unseen." Parviz steps carefully, pressing the pendant to his chest, feeling the subtle hum beneath. The rock, the mountain itself, seems to vibrate with awareness. Lian records the shifting shadows, noting how they sometimes mirror travelers' fears, exaggerated forms of lost companions, distorted camels, phantom cliffs that appear to block the path. The air grows colder despite the desert sun, carrying faint whispers in languages long forgotten, echoing as though from the stone itself. As evening approaches, the shadows grow longer, deeper, merging into one massive shape that seems to span the width of the pass. Camels shift uneasily, eyes wide. Uzma circles protective symbols in the dust, smoke curling upward. The caravan feels a collective pressure, an almost tangible presence weighing down on them from the cliffs. Every traveler senses the same truth. The Kizil Pass is alive, sentient in some way, responding to fear and courage alike. Survival depends not only on endurance and skill, but on unity, awareness, and calm hearts. The first night in the shadowed pass of Kizil is restless. Lanterns flicker against the rock walls, shadows dancing unnaturally. The wind whispers through the crevices, carrying faint echoes of travelers who disappeared long ago. Parviz dreams of twisted cliffs, spectral travelers, and the pendant glowing with an almost sentient pulse, guiding him through the darkness. By dawn, the caravan moves onward cautiously, understanding that this mountain pass will demand their sharpest focus, their clearest minds, and their deepest courage. The caravan moves cautiously deeper into the shadowed pass of Kizil, the path narrowing as cliffs rise sharply on either side. The sun has begun its descent, yet light struggles to penetrate the tight canyon, leaving travelers in a dim, shadowed world. The air grows cooler, almost unnaturally so, carrying whispers that seem to ripple from the stone itself. These are not ordinary echoes. They are fragments of voices, snatches of conversations, cries, and laughter from travelers who vanished in this pass centuries ago. Each whisper resonates deep in the mind, tugging at memory, fear, and imagination. Parviz rides at the forefront, jade pendant pulsing faintly, guiding his steps and providing a tether to reality. Listen carefully, he murmurs. Not all that speaks is real, but every sound matters. Rafiq nods beside him, eyes sharp, scanning every fissure and overhang. The pass remembers, he says. Every traveler leaves an imprint. Some remain trapped in its memory, bound to the cliffs as echoes. We must respect the path, or risk joining them. Lian's hands tremble over her scrolls as she sketches, attempting to capture not just the shapes of the shadows, but the subtle distortions of light and air caused by the echoes. As the caravan advances, the shadows begin to take shape, faint figures flickering along cliff faces, moving independently of natural light. Some appear to mimic the travelers themselves, copying their movements with slight, eerie delay. Others replay scenes from the past, a trader arguing over wares, camels stumbling in sand, travelers screaming as cliffs collapse. Parviz notices a figure ahead that mirrors his own posture, holding the jade pendant in a phantom hand. It steps closer, and he feels the pulse intensify as if responding to the echo's intent. Suddenly, a wail rises from the cliff's hollow, resonant, almost unbearable. The camels rear in fear, Uzma chants, scattering protective herbs that spark faintly on the dusty ground, illuminating the ghostly figures for brief moments. They are testing our minds, she shouts. Do not falter, do not react to fear alone. Parviz takes a deep breath, pressing the pendant to his chest, feeling its warmth anchor him against the illusions. Step by step, the caravan moves forward, each traveler relying on courage, focus, and trust in one another. The echoes grow bolder. One reaches out, shadow fingers stretching toward the travelers, attempting to lure them from the path. Parviz steadies himself, refusing to acknowledge the phantom hand. Lian writes furiously, documenting the echoes' patterns, their speed, their responses, their manipulations of the desert air. She whispers, they feed on hesitation. They vanish when we act with clarity and purpose. Rafik signals the caravan to maintain formation, moving deliberately, never rushing, never reacting with fear. As night falls, the pass narrows further, cliffs looming overhead, shadows deepening, the echoes intensify. Now they speak in phrases, names, warnings, and accusations. Parviz recognizes his own fears reflected back, lost companions, failed journeys, disasters long imagined. Each traveler faces personal illusions. Rafik sees phantom bandits ambushing his caravan. Lian sees her library crumbling into dust. Uzma hears the faint cries of those she could not save. Yet the pendant glows softly, a heartbeat of reassurance. And together they continue forward. Hours later, the echoes begin to fade as the caravan nears the exit of the pass. Shadows retract into the cliffs, murmurs dissolving into the wind. The travelers, exhausted but resolute, breathe a collective sigh of relief. The shadowed pass of Kizil has tested their courage, perception, and unity. Parviz clutches the jade pendant, understanding that the desert does not merely test the body, it reaches into the mind, replaying fears and regrets, demanding clarity and strength of will. By dawn, the caravan emerges from the pass, stepping into a narrow plateau bathed in early light. Every traveler carries the memory of the echoes, their voices, their forms, their warnings, and the knowledge that the desert records everything. The journey continues, but each knows now that the Silk Road at night is a living chronicle of human courage, fear, and endurance, and that every shadow, whisper, and echo must be met with clarity and resolve. As the caravan edges closer to the end of the shadowed pass of Kizil, the cliffs rise even higher, casting long, ominous shadows across the narrow path. The air grows heavy, tinged with the scent of iron and dust, and the temperature drops sharply. Even the camels, seasoned by deserts and salt flats, press close to their handlers. Parviz feels the jade pendant pulse strongly, more insistent than ever. Its warmth seems to surge with purpose, as if warning him that the pass's final trial is near, a test not only of courage, but of spirit. Rafik signals for silence. The crimson spirits guard the exit, he whispers. Legends call them guardians, but they are more than that. They reflect not what we see, but what we fear most. Every traveler who faces them must confront themselves, or risk being lost in the pass forever. Lian tightens her grip on her scrolls, noting the subtle shift in the shadows along the cliffs. Shapes flicker, crimson glows appearing along jagged rocks. The echoes of lost travelers are quieter now, replaced by a low hum, almost like chanting. Though no mouth produces the sound, suddenly a deep, resonant vibration runs along the stone beneath their feet. The crimson glow intensifies, forming humanoid figures that appear half-formed, neither solid nor entirely transparent. They move in deliberate, synchronized motions, circling the caravan, forcing them to slow their pace. Their faces are featureless, yet intimidating, pulsing with an inner red light that seems to pierce through the mind. Parviz grips the pendant, feeling a wave of heat and energy wash over him. They're reading us, he mutters. Our fear, our hesitation, they feed on it. The spirits close in, and the caravan forms a tight circle. Camels huddle near the center, lanterns dimmed to avoid glaring reflections. Uzma chants protective prayers, throwing sparks of herbal powder that burst into faint, glowing lights. Some spirits recoil, as though repelled by the ritual, but others advance unflinchingly, probing with unseen hands that stretch like red-tinged smoke. Rafik steps forward, sword in hand, voice steady. Do not fight them as enemies. They are a reflection. Stand firm. Do not flinch. Trust your courage. One of the crimson figures detaches and glides toward Parviz, mimicking his every movement, every breath, exaggerating his fears, loss, failure, the image of friends and companions suffering. The pendant burns hotter, pulsing violently. Parviz presses it to his chest, focusing not on the fear it reflects, but on the real caravan, his real companions. Slowly, the spirit halts, then fades slightly. Forced to retreat by the clarity and courage he radiates, Rafik guides the caravan forward, each step deliberate and unified. The spirits rise and fall in waves, testing each traveler individually. Lian sees phantom versions of herself appearing among the spirits, writing and recording endlessly in her scrolls, never able to escape the task. She resists, grounding herself in reality, forcing the crimson figures to dissolve before they can ensnare her mind. Uzma keeps the circle intact, protective smoke swirling like a barrier around the caravan. Hours feel like days as the caravan presses onward. The crimson glow flickers, wavering against the steady resolve of the travelers. One by one, the spirits retract, fading into the shadows of the cliffs. The path ahead begins to widen, sunlight peeking over jagged rocks, illuminating the final stretch. Parviz exhales, feeling the pendant's pulse return to a calm, steady rhythm. The trial has passed. The caravan, weary but unbroken, steps into the open plateau beyond the pass. The shadowed pass of Kizil leaves its mark. Memories of fear faced, illusions resisted, and courage tested in every shadow. The travelers understand that the desert and the mountains alike are sentient teachers, shaping not just their path, but their minds and hearts. Rafik surveys the caravan, eyes glinting with respect. The spirits retreat, for now, he says. But remember, the Silk Road is never empty of challenges. Every shadow we leave behind will linger, and the road ahead will demand even more. The caravan rests briefly, the first warmth of open sunlight reaching them after the oppressive shadows. Parviz tightens his hold on the jade pendant, knowing that it is not merely protection, but a guide, a reminder that courage and clarity can turn even the deadliest trials into passage. The journey continues westward, deeper into unknown lands where deserts, mountains, and legends intertwine, shaping the lives of all who dare to traverse the Silk Road at night. The caravan leaves the shadowed pass of Kizil behind, stepping into a landscape that is eerily serene yet unnervingly alive. Before them stretches the Valley of Whispering Stones, a narrow canyon whose walls rise like jagged teeth of ancient giants. The rocks themselves seem to hum with energy, faint vibrations that travel through the ground and the air. Even from a distance, travelers can hear it, subtle at first, like the wind whistling through fissures, but growing louder as they approach, forming an indistinct chorus of murmurs, whispers, and faint laughter. Parviz rides at the front, jade pendant pressed to his chest, pulsing gently as though syncing with the vibrations of the valley. The stones, he murmurs, voice tinged with awe and unease. They're alive, not just rock, something more. Rafik nods, scanning the walls for traps, fissures, or other hazards. Legends speak of travelers lost here, driven mad by the whispers. He warns, some say the stones remember, and some say they speak of truths the mind cannot bear. Keep focused, keep moving. The caravan enters the valley cautiously, each step measured. Camels tread lightly, ears flicking toward the murmuring echoes that seem to move in all directions. The air is dense, heavy with dust, and a faint metallic scent. Liane scribbles furiously in her scrolls, capturing both the shapes of the canyon walls and the patterns of sound. It's like the stones are alive, communicating, she whispers. Sometimes it feels like they are speaking directly into the mind, not the ears. Uzma spreads protective herbs along the path, murmuring prayers and chants that briefly create faint glowing circles in the dust. Small beacons of clarity in the valley's pervasive dissonance. The whispers grow louder as they proceed, forming almost coherent words, phrases, and snatches of conversation. Each traveler hears slightly different things. Parviz hears his fears voiced aloud, images of lost companions and failed journeys. Rafik hears warnings and challenges, accusing him of past mistakes. Liane hears echoes of stories she has read and forgotten, now twisted and distorted. The valley seems to adapt to each mind, creating illusions and auditory hallucinations that threaten to disrupt focus and unity. Suddenly, one of the rocks shudders, as if breathing. A low, resonant vibration travels through the ground, causing small pebbles to jump and slide along the path. Shadows stretch across the canyon walls, forming humanoid silhouettes that move independently of the travelers. Parviz instinctively presses the jade pendant, and a soft warmth radiates outward, dampening the effect of the whispers for those closest to him. Do not let them control your thoughts, he calls to the group. Remember what is real. Remember each other. As the caravan advances, the whispers shift again, this time forming faint voices of past travelers who vanished in the valley, speaking warnings and advice in tones both desperate and urgent. Liane pauses, writing furiously. It's like they are trapped in the stones, she whispers. They want to help or warn, but some are trying to deceive. We must listen carefully, not blindly. The camels snort nervously, as if sensing the dual nature of the valley, beauty and danger intertwined by nightfall. The caravan has only traversed half the valley. The stones reflect moonlight faintly, creating a silver glow that illuminates the intricate carvings and natural fissures of the canyon walls. Shadows continue to move independently, whispers lingering in the air like smoke. The travelers set a careful camp, keeping close to one another. Lanterns dimmed to avoid attracting attention from the valley's strange inhabitants. The first night in the Valley of Whispering Stones is tense, filled with faint murmurs that seep into dreams, testing the traveler's perception, courage, and ability to distinguish reality from illusion. Parviz clutches the jade pendant, feeling the pulse of the stones resonate faintly with its warmth. He understands instinctively. This valley, like the deserts and passes before, is alive, aware, and deliberate. Every step forward will demand focus, courage, and unity. For the Valley of Whispering Stones does not forgive distraction or fear. The Silk Road at night has become a journey not merely of trade and travel, but of the mind, heart, and spirit, and the valley will demand proof of all three. The caravan moves deeper into the Valley of Whispering Stones, the canyon walls towering above like ancient sentinels. The murmurs that had been subtle now thicken into a chorus, voices overlapping, intertwining, and twisting into an almost musical cadence. Each traveler hears different words, some warnings, some temptations, some memories, all layered over one another. Parviz feels the jade pendant pulsing strongly, as though syncing with the vibrations of the valley, providing a lifeline to reality amid the disorienting symphony of whispers. Suddenly, shadows detach from the stone walls, stretching and writhing as if alive. They take on humanoid forms, but their faces are indistinct, features blurred like smudges in ink. The shadows move around the caravan, circling slowly, whispering directly into the travelers' minds. Each voice is tailored, targeting fears, regrets, and desires. Rafik hears accusations of cowardice from past failures. Lian hears the voices of scholars she admired, twisting into ridicule and doubt. Parviz hears phantom pleas from lost friends and family. Uzma steps forward, sprinkling protective herbs in spiraling patterns along the ground. Each spark of smoke clashes with the shadows, momentarily repelling them, but the forms quickly reform, undeterred. They feed on uncertainty. She shouts over the low hum of the stones. Step as one, act as one, or you will be scattered. The caravan tightens, forming a protective circle. Lanterns dimmed to reduce the contrast that the shadows might exploit. The chorus of whispers rises into a crescendo, voices merging into a single, sentient will. A colossal shadow detaches from the valley walls, looming over the caravan, pulsating with a red-tinged glow. Its voice is not heard, but felt, a vibration that shakes the chest and stirs the mind. Who walks the stones? It seems to ask, probing thoughts, testing courage, and seeking weakness. Parviz presses the jade pendant to his chest, grounding himself in its warmth, feeling a tether to reality that extends outward to the rest of the caravan. Step by deliberate step, the caravan advances. Shadows dart closer, probing with ethereal hands, attempting to sow panic and discord. Lian scribbles frantically, capturing patterns in movement and sound, identifying moments when the chorus is testing rather than attacking. They mimic what we fear most, she shouts. Do not react emotionally, respond with clarity. Each traveler focuses on tangible reality, the path beneath them, the camels, the companions' steady presence. Slowly, the shadows' cohesion falters, wavering in the light of their unity. Hours stretch into tense movement, shadows flickering, the whispers twisting and bending with the caravan's progression. At one particularly narrow point, the chorus manifests as multiple figures, indistinguishable from the travelers themselves. Each twin mimics fear and hesitation, whispering doubts, attempting to lure members from the path. Parviz steps forward, pendant glowing, voice calm but firm. We move together. Fear has no dominion here. The figures hesitate, then dissolve into mist, as if unable to withstand the strength of combined resolve. By nightfall, the caravan reaches the heart of the valley, a plateau surrounded by towering stones etched with faint red runes. The shadows retreat, the whispers fading into soft echoes, leaving only the natural hum of the stones. The travelers collapse briefly, exhausted, their minds taxed from hours of psychological assault. Parviz studies the pendant, sensing the valley's awareness. It does not punish courage, but tests it, measuring unity, clarity, and the strength of will. The Valley of Whispering Stones has revealed its true nature. The chorus of shadows is not merely hostile, but a mirror reflecting every fear, doubt, and desire, demanding that travelers confront themselves fully. The caravan rests, knowing that the journey ahead will demand the same vigilance. For the Silk Road at night carries challenges not only of terrain and weather, but of perception, courage, and spirit. As dawn creeps over the horizon, the caravan moves cautiously toward the heart of the Valley of Whispering Stones. A narrow chamber carved naturally into the cliff walls, wide enough for the travelers, but suffused with an almost tangible energy. The air hums faintly, vibrating against bones and mind alike, carrying whispers that feel closer, more urgent, as if the stones themselves are leaning inward, listening, judging. Parviz grips his jade pendant, its warmth pulsing steadily. reminding him to anchor himself and the caravan in reality. The walls of the chamber are etched with intricate carvings, patterns of travelers, camels, and exotic animals long vanished from the Silk Road, intertwined with cryptic symbols and faint red runes. As the caravan steps forward, the whispers shift from fragmented voices to a unified tone, almost conversational. The valley itself seems to speak, murmuring questions, doubts, and truths, designed to probe every weakness and hesitation in the travelers' hearts. Suddenly, the shadows begin to emerge from the walls, more solid and defined than ever. They mirror the travelers precisely: Rafiq's stance, Lian's gestures, Uzma's movements, yet twisted slightly, exaggerated in ways that highlight fears, regrets, or doubts. Parviz sees his own shadow raise a phantom hand toward him, and he instinctively presses the pendant to his chest. Its pulse grows stronger, sending warmth and grounding energy through the caravan. "Do not fight them as enemies," he murmurs. "They are reflections. See through them." The chamber's whispers become questions. Do you trust your companions? Will you falter? Can you distinguish the real from the imagined? Each traveler feels the pull of the illusions. Parviz envisions lost friends calling him to step aside. Lian sees libraries and knowledge slipping through her fingers. Rafiq feels phantom bandits surrounding the group. Even the camels sense the tension, shifting nervously, breathing quickened. Uzma scatters herbs in protective circles, chanting softly, each spark pushing back the most aggressive shadows. Though the whispers persist, step by careful step, the caravan advances, guided by unity and focus. Shadows reach out, attempting to separate travelers, but every action is countered by the presence of companions. The warmth of the pendant and the repeated grounding rituals Uzma performs. Parviz notices that the more the travelers act together, the weaker the shadows become. The valley responds not to fear, but to cohesion and courage. Finally, they reach the center of the chamber, a natural basin of smooth stone, faintly glowing with a crimson light. The whispers stop abruptly, replaced by silence so profound it hums through the air. The shadows vanish entirely. The carvings in the stone now shimmer faintly, as if acknowledging the caravan's triumph. Parviz feels the pendant pulse once more, steady and warm, as if congratulating them on passing the valley's trial. The heart of the Valley of Whispering Stones has been survived, and the travelers understand its lesson. Perception can be deceived, fear can be magnified, and only courage, clarity, and unity can reveal reality by midday. The caravan exits the chamber, stepping back into the broader canyon. The whispers have receded to faint murmurs, and the stones seem calm, patient, as if resting before the next traveler arrives. The Silk Road stretches onward, and the travelers know that the valley has not only tested their minds and hearts, but has strengthened them for trials yet to come. Parviz studies the jade pendant, understanding that it is more than a talisman. It is a guide, a reminder that the world itself watches, records, and tests those who dare to journey through its hidden paths. The caravan rests briefly, drinking water and tending camels, knowing that the next stretch of the Silk Road will be just as demanding. The Valley of Whispering Stones has been conquered, but its lessons linger. Unity is strength, clarity is survival, and perception is as vital as courage. Beyond the valley, new deserts, passes, and legends await, each with its own whispers, shadows, and trials. The caravan emerges from the rocky canyons of the Valley of Whispering Stones, feeling the sun's warmth after days of shadow and chill. Before them stretches the desert of Singing Sands, a vast expanse of golden dunes that ripple like an ocean in the heat. At first, the desert seems serene, almost inviting, But a strange phenomenon quickly becomes apparent. The sands themselves produce a low, melodic hum, a vibration that travels through the feet, through the camel's hooves, and deep into the chest of every traveler. It is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, yet unmistakably alive. Parviz rides at the front, jade pendant resting over his chest. Its pulse is steady, but he feels the desert's resonance, a vibration in the sand that seems almost communicative. "Listen," he murmurs. "The sands, they sing. But it's not music. It's language, warning, or testing. I'm not sure which." Rafiq's eyes scan the horizon, noting how the dunes rise and fall in unnatural patterns, as if responding to the desert's song. "The singing sands are deceptive," he warns. "The wind, the dunes, even the sound, all conspire to confuse travelers. One misstep and you may wander endlessly." Lian leans forward, scrolls ready, capturing the shifting patterns of light, shadow, and sound. "It's like the desert has memory," she says, voice almost awed. "Every grain resonates with vibration, every note carries history, and perhaps a warning." The wind begins to pick up, brushing against the dunes and intensifying the hum. The tones grow louder, harmonizing and clashing unpredictably, creating fleeting melodies that unsettle the mind. Even Uzma, experienced with supernatural forces, murmurs protective chants, her herbs igniting briefly to ward against unseen influences. As the caravan advances, the melody seems to respond to their movements. Certain steps produce harmonics, others discord. Camels hesitate, shifting their weight nervously. Shadows across the dunes bend and twist, forming fleeting shapes, humanoid at times, but often abstract, like flowing ribbons of sand. Parviz notices one particularly large dune vibrating intensely, its crest forming the shape of a vast serpent, coiling and uncoiling in harmony with the singing. "It wants something from us," he whispers. "Attention, caution, maybe even respect." By midday, the desert sun reaches its zenith, and the resonance of the sands intensifies. The travelers feel disoriented. The dunes appear to shift beneath their feet, and mirages of oasis, water, or distant cliffs appear and vanish in rhythm with the hum. Parviz presses the jade pendant, its warmth anchoring him and sending faint reassurance along the caravan's path. Step by careful step, the caravan progresses, relying on unity and focus to navigate the shifting, singing landscape. The first night in the desert of singing sands is surreal. The dunes continue to hum softly, a lullaby that teases the mind. Travelers hear phantom conversations, whispers of lost caravans, or faint echoes of laughter carried on the wind. Camels rest uneasily, shuffling in the sand. Parviz studies the horizon, realizing that the desert is a living, responsive entity, one that tests not just endurance, but perception, focus, and courage. As lanterns glow dimly along the caravan, the travelers settle in for the night, understanding that survival in the singing sands will require more than stamina. They must learn to listen, interpret, and move in harmony with the desert itself. The Silk Road stretches endlessly beyond, but here, every note, every vibration, every shadow could mean life or death. Parviz holds the pendant close, feeling the pulse of the desert resonates faintly with its energy, and whispers, "We must move carefully. The sands are alive." As the caravan advances deeper into the desert of singing sands, the melodic hum intensifies, shifting in tone and pitch, as though the desert itself were composing a song specifically for them. At first, it seems like a gentle accompaniment to their journey, but soon the melody begins to manipulate perception, bending reality and conjuring illusions that blur the line between what is real and what is imagined. Parviz notices distant dunes shimmer, forming shapes of camels and travelers that vanish when approached. The desert's song begins to produce visions tailored to each traveler. Parviz sees his family waiting at the horizon, smiling and beckoning him forward. Lian witnesses a library of impossible height and endless knowledge, books floating around her as if awaiting her command. Rafik sees a phantom path leading safely around the dunes, yet it diverges from the caravan's true course. Uzma senses spirits dancing along the melody, singing in languages long forgotten, attempting to draw her away from the circle. "Do not trust what you see," Parviz shouts, gripping the jade pendant. Its pulse surges, radiating warmth and focus through the caravan. The pendant seems to hum in counterpoint to the desert, anchoring reality against the illusions. Rafik signals the group to stay together, moving slowly and deliberately, eyes fixed on each other instead of distant mirages. "The sands will lure you apart," he warns. "Step off the path, follow what you desire, and you may never return." The mirages grow more aggressive, blending multiple desires into one vision. Parviz now sees a caravan laden with gold and silks, his companions transformed into shadowy figures promising him glory. Lian sees herself teaching vast halls of students. Rafik sees phantom mountains rising in impossible formations, all singing in harmony with the desert's melody. The illusions are persuasive, almost tangible, each more enticing and threatening than the last dot. Uzma sprinkles protective herbs into the wind, chanting words that crackle faintly in response to the desert's song. The smoke spirals upward, shimmering against the heat and the hum, creating a temporary barrier that repels the most dangerous visions. Parviz follows the pendant's pulse, guiding the caravan along a subtle path that the melody cannot distort. One by one, they learn to focus not on the visions but on each other's presence, the reality beneath their feet, and the consistency of the caravan's unity. Hours stretch as the sun dips low. The desert hum shifts, becoming lower, resonating through the sand, the camels, and the travelers' bones. Every mirage becomes more elaborate, challenging their endurance and perception. Shadows rise from the dunes, some humanoid, some abstract, dancing in rhythm with the desert's song. Parviz realizes the melody is a test, to bend the mind with desire, fear, and distraction. Only focus, trust, and clarity can guide travelers through safely. As night falls, the illusions begin to fade, but the hum never fully disappears. Lanterns glow softly, illuminating the sand beneath their feet. The caravan rests in a tight circle, sharing whispered confirmations of reality, leaning on one another for stability. Parviz presses the pendant to his chest, feeling the desert's resonance finally subside, though faint vibrations linger like a heartbeat in the sand. The travelers have survived the desert's illusions, but each knows that the singing sands will continue to challenge them, bending perception and tempting desire at every step. The Silk Road stretches endlessly ahead, but here, in the heart of the desert, the caravan has learned a crucial lesson. Illusion is as dangerous as any bandit, and perception as vital as any compass. The melody of the sands is not merely sound, it is a living, breathing force, testing courage, trust, and the ability to see clearly through temptation. As night deepens, the desert of singing sands grows restless. The low, melodic hum that had guided and challenged the caravan during the day now escalates into a resonant, overwhelming vibration, coursing through the dunes, the air, and the travelers themselves. It is no longer merely a song, it is a voice, ancient and sentient, calling to the mind and spirit. Parviz feels the jade pendant thrumming urgently against his chest. A tether pulling him back from the brink of the desert's hypnotic pull. The sands shift with startling speed. Dunes rise and fall like tidal waves, their edges glinting crimson in the moonlight. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the landscape, forming humanoid and animal shapes that move in intricate patterns, synchronized with the resonance. Each vibration seems to speak directly into the mind, conjuring memories, fears, and desires with acute precision. Parviz hears phantom voices of every trader, traveler, and lost soul who ever crossed the desert, each whispering, calling, warning, a chorus impossible to ignore. Rafiq signals the caravan to stay tight, urging calm and deliberate movement. "This is no longer illusion alone," he shouts over the rising vibration. "The desert is testing mind and body simultaneously. Step carefully and trust your companions. Step alone and you may vanish." Lian clutches her scrolls, struggling to record the shifting patterns of light, shadow, and sound. "The desert adapts," she murmurs. "It knows what frightens us, what tempts us. It's alive in every grain of sand." The first true trial manifests as a massive mirage. An endless oasis appears on the horizon, glittering with gold, silver, and flowing water. Phantom camels and travelers seem to await the caravan, promising rest, safety, and reward. But the pendant glows hot in Parviz's hand, urging caution. He sees faint distortions at the edges of the illusion, shadows that do not belong, shapes bending in impossible ways. "It's the desert," he warns. "It offers what we desire most, but it is a trap. Follow me, not the mirage." As they advance, the resonance intensifies further, vibrating through bone and nerve. The caravan feels each grain of sand, hears each whisper, and senses every shadow. Some travelers falter, staring toward illusory oases or phantom companions. Parviz uses the pendant to anchor their perception, repeating aloud the tangible truths, the path beneath their feet, the presence of their companions, the unity of the caravan. Slowly, step by step, they progress, resisting the desert's allure. Suddenly, a colossal wave of sound rises, the desert's true voice, a pure, resonant note that shakes the dunes like thunder. Shadows coalesce into a towering figure, formed entirely of vibrating sand, its eyes glowing faintly crimson. It speaks not in words, but in a flood of emotions, visions, and instinctive understanding, testing every traveler's courage, perception, and resolve simultaneously. The caravan braces, holding hands, guiding camels, and grounding themselves through mutual presence. Parviz steps forward, pressing the pendant to his chest, projecting calm and focus into the caravan. One by one, travelers tune themselves to the rhythm of the desert, not resisting, but harmonizing with it. The towering sand figure wavers, the resonance softening as unity and clarity counter the overwhelming illusions. Shadows retreat, mirages dissolve, and the desert's hum returns to a gentle, rhythmic vibration, no longer oppressive, but guiding. By dawn, the caravan emerges from the desert of singing sands, weary but triumphant. The dunes settle into silent, golden waves, their song now a subtle whisper, reminding travelers of the trial they endured. Parviz studies the jade pendant, now glowing faintly, knowing it has not merely protected them, but helped them navigate perception, desire, and fear. The Silk Road continues onward, more treacherous and alive than ever. Yet the caravan has learned that in this desert, survival depends as much on mind and spirit as on strength and endurance. The desert of singing sands has spoken, its true voice heard, its challenge overcome, but the travelers know that the road ahead will demand even greater courage, unity, and awareness. After days traversing the desert of singing sands, The caravan finally spots something unusual on the horizon, a glimmering skyline that seems impossibly real, yet impossibly distant. It is the mirage city of Zhalan, legendary among Silk Road traders for appearing and disappearing at will. From afar, its walls shimmer like molten gold in the sun, spires reach toward the clouds, and markets bustle with shadowy figures whose outlines seem to flicker. Travelers speak in hushed tones, aware that Jhalan is as much an illusion as it is a city. Parviz rides at the front, eyes narrowing as he studies the mirage. The jade pendant pulses gently, cautioning against premature trust in what they see. It is real, partially, he murmurs to Rafik, but it's layered with illusion. The city plays with perception and temptation. Rafik scans the horizon carefully, noting the desert sands bending unnaturally around the city. Legends warn of traders lost in Jhalan, he says. Some vanish seeking treasure, some vanish seeking knowledge. Only those who see clearly may enter and leave. Lian leans forward, sketching the city in her scrolls. Even from a distance, she notices inconsistencies. Rooftops that shimmer as if made of glass. Streets that twist subtly when viewed from different angles. Shadows that do not match the sun's trajectory. It's like a living puzzle, she says. The city adapts to whoever approaches. It's testing our perception, patience, and judgment. Uzma moves among the travelers, murmuring prayers and scattering protective herbs. The smoke rises into the air, spiraling toward the mirage, faintly disrupting its shifting patterns. As the caravan moves closer, the mirage solidifies partially. Gates appear real. Towers gleam with stone and metal, and distant market sounds, the clink of coins, the hum of voices, the clang of tools, reach their ears. Yet subtle distortions remain. Figures in the marketplace flicker, sometimes appearing as actual people, sometimes as echoes of traders long vanished. Camels grow uneasy, ears flicking at movement that does not fully exist. Parviz grips the pendant, feeling its warmth intensify as if warning him of hidden danger. Upon reaching the outskirts, the caravan notices more signs of the city's dual nature. Some streets are tangible, cobbled and solid. Others dissolve into sand or fade into impossible angles. Doors and arches open into empty space or loops back to where they started. Mirrors and reflective surfaces twist reality, duplicating travelers' images, creating phantom companions and illusory obstacles. Parviz realizes that Jhalan is not merely a city but a test of discernment, a living puzzle designed to challenge trust, perception, and unity. The first night near Jhalan is tense. Lanterns cast narrow pools of light on the sand, while shadows from the mirage stretch and twist in ways that seem to interact with the caravan's movements. Whispered voices float faintly through the air, sometimes guiding, sometimes deceiving. Parviz, Rafik, Lian, and Uzma huddle near the camels, aware that missteps in the city could lead to disappearance or entrapment. The mirage city of Zhalan is not hostile in a conventional sense. Its danger lies in the mind, in perception, and in succumbing to illusion by dawn. The caravan prepares to enter the city. Parviz studies the pendant, understanding that it is no longer merely protective. It is a guide, a tool to discern reality amid layers of deception. The journey through Zhalan will demand clarity of mind, unwavering unity, and sharp perception. For the mirage city challenges not only body and endurance, but every thought and intention of those who enter. The caravan cautiously enters the mirage city of Zhalan, stepping from the solid sand into streets that appear tangible yet shimmer with unreality. The cobblestones beneath the camels' hooves are uneven, subtly shifting as if the city itself is breathing. Towers and walls reflect the sun in glimmers that twist the eyes, creating illusions of streets where none exist, and pathways looping impossibly back on themselves. Every corner holds a potential trap. A street may seem familiar, only to vanish when approached, or a market stall may appear bustling with traders, yet dissolve into phantom light at the last moment. Parviz presses the jade pendant to his chest, feeling its pulse strengthen as if sensing the city's sentience. "Stay close," he urges. Zhalan watches. "It adapts to us. One misstep, one distraction, and we may wander forever." Rafiq leads the caravan carefully, studying patterns in the shifting streets, noting areas where shadows stretch unnaturally and reflective surfaces appear to duplicate reality. "This is no ordinary city," he warns. "Every reflection, every shimmer is a test. It will show you what you fear, what you desire, and what you doubt most about yourself." The first illusions strike quickly. Lian glimpses a version of herself, walking ahead, carrying scrolls and whispering knowledge she wishes she had mastered. Parviz sees lost companions calling to him from a distant plaza, beckoning him off the true path. Even Uzma feels the pull of spirits, spectral merchants offering secrets and forbidden insights. The mirages are vivid, almost tangible, testing both perception and will. The city seems to read their minds, tailoring each reflection to exploit weaknesses and desires. Parviz uses the pendant as an anchor, sharing its warmth and steady pulse with the caravan. Step by careful step, they move through streets where mirrors line walls, windows twist reality, and puddles ripple with impossible images. Shadows detach from structures, mimicking movements and whispering doubts. Rafiq signals the travelers to act deliberately, moving together, communicating continuously, and resisting the temptation to follow any illusion that promises safety, wealth, or knowledge. Hours pass in a tense rhythm, each mirage grows more elaborate. Streets spiral into impossible angles, towers stretch into the clouds, and entire plazas appear populated with phantom caravans. Parviz notices a pattern. The illusions respond to hesitation. Whenever a traveler doubts, pauses, or lingers on a vision, it grows stronger, sometimes enveloping half a street in phantom light. Clarity and decisiveness weaken the illusions, allowing the caravan to progress. That night deepens, and Zhalan's reflective surfaces catch the moonlight, creating a dazzling labyrinth of light and shadow. The caravan huddles close, guiding camels carefully, whispering confirmations of reality to one another. Lian records the distortions, noting how the city seems to record their reactions and adapt in real time. Uzma reinforces protective circles, herbs burning in spirals that momentarily disrupt illusions, giving travelers brief glimpses of the true path. By the first light of dawn, the caravan reaches what seems to be the central plaza of Zhalan, a wide open space lined with mirrors and translucent structures. The city no longer shifts as aggressively, the illusions weakening before their unity and clarity. Parviz studies the pendant, feeling its pulse return to a calm rhythm. They have navigated the labyrinth of reflections, surviving the city's attempts to manipulate perception, desire, and fear. Yet the heart of Zhalan still awaits, promising the final challenge. The caravan approaches the heart of Zhalan, a grand plaza unlike anything they have seen. Towers of translucent crystal rise impossibly high, reflecting not only sunlight but distorted images of the travelers themselves. Pools of water mirror impossible skies, and streets converge in intricate, looping patterns that seem to fold back upon themselves. Even the air hums softly with energy, carrying faint whispers and musical tones. remnants of every traveler who ever entered the city. The jade pendant thrums warmly against Parvis's chest, a steady heartbeat guiding him through the disorienting brilliance. As they step into the plaza, shadows detach from reflective surfaces, forming humanoid figures that mirror each traveler perfectly, except each carries a subtle distortion, emphasizing doubts, fears, and desires. Parvis sees a version of himself, clutching the pendant but frozen in fear. Lian's reflection writes endlessly, unable to pause. Rafiq's duplicate falters under the weight of phantom bandits. Uzma's echoes whisper warnings of paths not taken. The heart of Zhalan is alive, reading their minds, amplifying vulnerabilities, and creating illusions that test every aspect of perception, courage, and trust. Remember, Parvis calls to the caravan, his voice steady despite the surreal spectacle. These are reflections. None of them are real. Trust each other. Our reality is here, together. He presses the jade pendant against his chest, feeling a surge of warmth ripple outward, anchoring both his own mind and the caravan's collective focus. Step by step, they move forward, ignoring the temptations and fears reflected in the mirrored surfaces. The city's challenge escalates. Pools of water ripple, forming visions of vast treasures, lost loved ones, or triumphant returns to distant homes. Mirrors bend space, creating infinite corridors where travelers appear endlessly duplicated, some walking ahead, some lagging behind. Each illusion is vivid, seductive, and disorienting. Camels shift nervously, sensing the strange energy, their hooves stirring faint tremors in the plaza. Uzma reinforces protective circles, the burning herbs creating sparks that briefly disrupt the city's manipulations, revealing glimpses of solid, tangible pathways. Rafiq guides the caravan with deliberate precision. Do not follow visions, and do not look away from each other, he commands. Unity is our anchor. Doubt is the city's tool. Parvis leads by example, maintaining eye contact with each traveler, ensuring every step is deliberate and deliberate alone. Slowly, the towering reflections falter, their distortions flickering as if unable to withstand the combined clarity and courage of the group. Finally, at the very center of the plaza, the illusions converge into a single, massive reflection, a translucent figure representing the caravan as a whole, caught between desire and fear, light and shadow. It rises, attempting to envelop them in shimmering light. Parvis presses the jade pendant once more, and the warmth radiates outward like a pulse of truth. Each traveler focuses on the real companions beside them, the solid ground beneath their feet, and the tangible presence of camels and gear. The reflection shudders, then dissolves into mist. The plaza becomes still, the air calm, the mirrors reflecting reality without distortion. The heart of Zhalan has been passed. The city's illusions retreat, leaving the travelers in a quiet, golden light that seems almost tangible in its serenity. The pendant pulses faintly, a reminder of the guidance it provided through trials of perception, fear, and desire. Exiting the city, the caravan steps back into the desert sunlight. Zhalan shimmers briefly, then fades into legend once more, a place of challenge and revelation visible only to those tested. Parvis studies the pendant, understanding its purpose as more than protection. It is a guide to clarity, courage, and unity. The Silk Road stretches onward, and the caravan knows that even greater challenges lie ahead. But for now, they have conquered the mirage city of Zhalan, proving their minds, hearts, and spirits can endure even the most beguiling illusions. After surviving the mirage city of Zhalan, The caravan presses onward through a vast stretch of desert, where the sun beats relentlessly upon golden dunes. The landscape is harsh, unyielding, and seemingly endless. Yet, in the distance, Parviz spots something unusual, a cluster of lush greenery, a glimmer of water that appears almost impossibly vibrant against the arid expanse. It is the forgotten Oasis, a hidden sanctuary whispered about in Silk Road legends, said to appear only to travelers deemed worthy of discovery. Parviz's heart quickens as he approaches. The jade pendant pulses warmly, almost like a heartbeat, in sync with the oasis itself. This is not merely water, he whispers to Rafik. It's a place of tests, of spirit, endurance, and truth. Legends say those who rest here find revelations, but also face trials of loyalty and courage. Rafik nods, scanning the surroundings. It is said the oasis remembers every traveler who reaches it, testing them not with danger, but with reflection and choice. We must remain vigilant. As the caravan enters the oasis, they find a landscape unlike any desert realm they have seen. Palm trees sway gently in a cool breeze, the water shimmers with a serene light, and birds with iridescent plumage flit through the air. Camels, exhausted from the journey, drink eagerly, and the travelers finally feel a moment of relief. Yet even in this apparent paradise, subtle signs suggest that the oasis is alive and aware. The reflection of the travelers in the water sometimes moves independently. Ripples form patterns that resemble messages, and faint whispers echo in the wind, not threats, but prompts for introspection. Liane kneels by the water, dipping her hands and watching the surface. The oasis mirrors us, she murmurs. It shows not just our faces, but our choices, fears, and strengths. Everything we've endured along the Silk Road, it's all here, reflected back to us. Parviz studies the ripples, noticing that some movements in the water replicate events from their journey. Shadows of the Kizil Pass, echoes from the whispering stones, the melodic resonance of the singing sands, and fleeting images of zhalan. Each reflection serves as a reminder of lessons learned, courage, perception, and unity. Uzma leads the travelers in a ritual of gratitude and reflection. Herbs are burned, chants whispered, and protective symbols traced in the sand around their camp. The air shimmers faintly, as though responding to their intention, reinforcing a connection between the oasis and the caravan's collective spirit. Even Rafik, usually stoic, pauses to consider the significance. The oasis is not merely a resting place, it is a test of awareness, patience, and discernment, offering both clarity and temptation. As night falls, lanterns glow softly along the oasis, casting gentle reflections across the water. Shadows of trees and travelers stretch long, intertwining with the faint echoes of previous adventurers who reached this hidden sanctuary. The caravan settles in, drinking, tending to camels, and quietly reflecting on the trials they have survived. Parviz presses the jade pendant to his chest, feeling it pulse in rhythm with the oasis, a reassurance that their endurance and unity have brought them here. But that vigilance must remain. The forgotten oasis is not merely a refuge, it is a culmination of all lessons, a mirror of experiences past, and a prelude to the final challenges that await along the Silk Road. Every whisper in the wind, every ripple in the water, and every shadow cast by the palms reminds the caravan that the journey is far from over, and that the ultimate test of courage, perception, and unity may be only just beginning. As the caravan rests at the forgotten oasis, a strange stillness settles over the water. The surface of the pools shimmers unnaturally, reflecting not only the travelers' images, but scenes from their journey along the Silk Road. Parviz notices the first vision, a replay of the shadowed pass of Kizil, showing moments when fear had threatened to overwhelm them. He sees each traveler confronted by echoes of their past illusions they had faced, decisions made in courage, and moments of hesitation. The Oasis is alive, replaying these events, testing their memory and perception. The water begins to ripple, distorting the visions into fragments that blend past and present. Lian sees herself in the Valley of Whispering Stones, her own sketches coming alive, floating off the pages and forming miniature illusions that attempt to distract her. Rafik sees the desert of Singing Sands, mirages bending reality once again, testing his judgment on the choices they made during the desert's trials. Even Uzma witnesses fleeting shadows of travelers she could not save, stirring both sorrow and determination. Parviz kneels by the largest pool, pressing the jade pendant to his chest. Its pulse resonates with the Oasis, stabilizing the illusions and anchoring their perception. These reflections, they're not meant to frighten us, he murmurs. They're reminders and tests. We must confront every decision, every fear, and every failure we've faced, then choose what to carry forward. He calls to the caravan, guiding them to gather by the water and observe consciously, resisting temptation to touch the visions or chase illusions. The Oasis then projects scenes of temptation, visions of gold, treasure-laden caravans, and endless knowledge flicker across the water's surface. Some illusions are deeply personal. Parviz sees a vision of his family urging him to abandon the road. Lian sees accolades and recognition for her scholarly work. Rafik sees victory over phantom enemies. Each vision is alluring, pressing upon the traveler's desires, tempting them to deviate from reality. The Oasis measures not strength alone, but moral focus and loyalty, whether they follow desire or stay true to the caravan and the journey. One by one, the travelers confront the reflections. Parviz steadies himself, letting the pendant's warmth remind him of the real companions beside him. Lian closes her eyes, breathing slowly, choosing to honor knowledge gained rather than what might have been. Rafik grips his sword, letting go of phantom victories, and Uzma reinforces protective circles, her chants harmonizing with the rippling water to maintain clarity. Each traveler learns to separate desire from reality, fear from action, illusion from truth. By nightfall, the Oasis shifts again. The reflections fade into soft ripples, leaving only the travelers' present selves mirrored in the pools. A quiet peace settles over the Oasis, the wind rustling through palms like a gentle applause. The caravan understands that the reflections of the past were more than visions. They were a final moral and perceptual trial, demanding unity, honesty, and clarity of mind. Every lesson of the Silk Road, from passes to deserts, from stones to cities, converges here in subtle, quiet ways. The travelers rest, knowing that while the Oasis has tested their minds and hearts, it has also prepared them for the final stretch of the journey. Each ripple, shadow, and reflection has reinforced the importance of courage, unity, and perception. The Silk Road ahead may still challenge them, physically and spiritually, but tonight, at the forgotten Oasis, they have faced themselves fully and survived. At first light, the caravan rises from the forgotten Oasis, the golden glow of dawn spilling across the sand like liquid fire. The Oasis fades behind them, as if it had never been, leaving only the endless expanse of desert stretching toward distant mountains. Parviz adjusts the jade pendant against his chest, its pulse steady and reassuring, a reminder of every trial survived. Kizil, the Whispering Stones, the Singing Sands, and the mirage city of Zhalan. Every challenge has led them here, to the final passage of their Silk Road journey. The desert ahead is unremarkable at first glance. A stretch of rolling dunes and sun-baked sand, but subtle signs warn of the final test. Winds that whisper faintly in words rather than mere sound. Shadows that bend unnaturally, and a heat that seems to press on mind as well as body. Parviz senses it immediately. This is the desert's ultimate trial, a convergence of all lessons learned, demanding courage, unity, perception, and endurance simultaneously. Rafiq leads the caravan with quiet determination, eyes scanning the dunes for mirages, unstable sands, and hidden fissures. This stretch will challenge everything we've learned, he says. Trust each other, step carefully, move with purpose. Lian studies the shifting patterns of sunlight and shadow, sketching notes to anticipate the desert's subtle illusions. Uzma murmurs prayers, spreading protective herbs around the caravan, keeping spirits grounded and minds focused. Soon, the desert asserts itself fully. Dunes rise and fall like waves, shifting in ways that defy logic. The singing sands resonate faintly, their hum interweaving with echoes of the mirage city and the whispering stones. Shadows form humanoid and abstract shapes, testing recognition and judgment. Illusions of water, caravans, and distant mountains appear, some threatening, some enticing, all designed to provoke distraction, doubt, and fatigue. Parviz presses the jade pendant, its warmth radiating outward to help the caravan discern reality from illusion. The test intensifies as the travelers approach a narrow gorge. The final passage, flanked by cliffs that rise like silent sentinels. A sandstorm begins to swirl, infused with echoes from every trial they endured. Voices of past illusions, phantom companions, and lost travelers whip around them, threatening confusion. Camels snort nervously, stumbling over shifting sand. Parviz steps forward, steadying the caravan. Hold fast. Focus on each other, on the path, on what is real. Step together. Each traveler draws upon the lessons of the Silk Road. Lian recalls the patterns of the whispering stones, seeing clarity in chaos. Rafiq applies the discipline learned in Zhalan, resisting illusions with deliberate action. Uzma channels the calm and protective energy of the Oasis. Parviz lets the jade pendant guide their steps, syncing the group's rhythm and anchoring their perception. Together, they advance through the storm, step by painstaking step. At the gorge's narrowest point, the illusion's climax, shadows merge into colossal forms, mirages of every fear, desire, and doubt combined, towering above the caravan. Yet the travelers do not falter. Each step, each glance at a companion, each grounding breath counters the mirage. The jade pendant glows steadily, a beacon through the chaos. Slowly, the illusions break apart, fading into the wind. The storm loses its force, the sands settle, and the cliffs reveal a solid, unbroken path forward. Finally, the caravan emerges from the final passage into a vast plateau, bathed in sunlight and dotted with fertile land. The journey of the Silk Road at night has ended, every trial faced, every illusion confronted, every fear and desire tested. Parviz studies the pendant, its pulse now calm and steady, a testament to their endurance. The travelers look at one another, understanding without words. Courage, unity, perception, and trust have carried them through, shaping them into more than mere traders and travelers. They are survivors, witnesses, and keepers of the Silk Road's hidden truths. The Silk Road stretches onward beyond the plateau, filled with untold stories, deserts, passes, and cities. But for now, the caravan rests, victorious. The trials of Kizil, the whispering stones, the singing sands, Zhalan, and the forgotten Oasis have passed. leaving lessons etched into memory, spirit, and heart. The journey has ended, yet its echoes will guide them, and others who dare to traverse the Silk Road at night, for all the roads beyond, no matter how treacherous, are pathways of courage, unity, and discovery.